Good morning, everybody. How is everyone today? We're ready to start here. I think if I can quit playing with my spinner here for a minute. These things are so addictive. Up. Second mic's on. Can you still hear me? All right, there we go. Mic check. Checking the mic. Okay. Um. Wow, we have a bunch of people here already. What's up, Aspie, David, Gustner, Glenn Allinson? What's up, everybody? How's everyone this morning? K-Bear, what's up, everybody? You have to buy paint? Undead stream? What are you guys talking about? What the hell are you guys talking about? Hey, what's up, Maker Noob? All right, so as you can see from the description, we're going to try to do something we talked about like long ago. It's a little less relevant now that winter's over, but commercial? There shouldn't be a commercial. Unless you want to count me like plugging spinners all the time, commercials. Plus, all you guys should be running ad block anyway. I know that's like it undermines my own kind of situation here on YouTube, but I use it, so I can't give anybody else a hard time. Anyway, quit distracting myself. Over the winter, like my basement gets fairly cold and it stays cold. It's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius for people who prefer that, but it's a little cool. And it caused me not a lot of problems while I was printing, but some problems, especially when you're trying to print things that require, 80 plus degrees on the heat bed. And we had discussed quite a while ago about using sheets of cork to try and insulate the underside of the bed. I don't know that I've ever seen someone actually do it with the Mk2, and to be fair, I haven't really looked all that hard. But I have seen people do it with other printers and other heated beds. So we're going to try to do that today. And I did all of about 8 seconds of research for this, which basically consisted of taking these sheets of cork and kind of seeing if I could jam it under the heat bed and there was clearance. And it seems to fit quite nicely, actually, because the Mk2 has that aluminum X plate, and then the heat bed is almost exactly the same space in there of the that was a terrible sentence. The space between the heat bed and the aluminum plate is almost exactly the same dimensions as the cork sheets I have here, and these are actually about a decade old. It's kind of surprising how well cork holds up, but these are from years ago when I was doing basically 3D terrain. I was making 3D printed terrain without a 3D printer. I was casting it in plaster, and I would mount it on sheets of cork like this. How thick is my cork? I don't know. Why do you gotta put me on the spot like that? It's, I would guess... Well, I guess I shouldn't guess. Let me just measure it. I don't really have a way to show you guys here, but I've also been doing a lot of stuff around the shop here the last few days. I've got some pictures of like what would you call that? Like from how it looked when I started to like how it kind of is now, and I have a little bit left to do to just like try to continue to like improve things and improve like my workflow and organization and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna take a few pictures today after I finish up. And some of you might be shocked how messy it is around here. Looks like these are just about 5mm. And for all of you in America, well, 0.2 inch, anybody that's used to like the non-metric system of measure, 0.2 inches isn't very helpful, so we'll skip that. But yeah, that's how big it is. So why is he putting cork on the bottom of the heat bed? I wish I had a good answer for that, but because we talked about it, and I kind of want to like see how it goes. In theory, it will reduce like the cycle time that the machine has to spend like powering the heat bed. It should like improve the overall efficiency of our power usage. Though, if you've ever seen the video I did on power usage, printers don't use that much electricity, even with the heat bed at a high temp. But yeah, basically, why not? We're gonna give it a try because, like I said, during the winter I did have some problems since I was heating or printing in a cold environment. The printer struggled a little bit to keep the bed at temp if you have the cooling fan on at all, like the part cooling fan. Like I said, especially, it's not too bad at, 50 to 60 degrees Celsius when you're printing like PLA or something like that. But when you're printing materials that require a little bit of part cooling and the bed at, 80 degrees plus, the MK2 can struggle a little bit to keep up. And from what I understand, I think, or maybe I was thinking of the hot end. I was going to say, I think some of the printers came with slightly higher wattage heating elements, but I think that was just the hot ends. Have I thought about sticking some foil? You probably could do that. That's getting a little advanced. We're still here at the entry level, getting some cork under here. I mainly wanted to see if it was too much of a pain because after talking about it on stream, I did have a few people ask me about it if I was ever going to do it. So yeah, we're going to try to do that. We're going to tear our printer apart yet again. And I guess one of the first things we're going to do is set the printer to heat the heat bed to, we'll say 100 degrees, and we'll time how long that takes. We'll throw some of this on here, and then we'll do that again when we're finished and see how long that takes. And then when all of that is done, which shouldn't take all that long, I wouldn't imagine. If you see in the description, we're going to try printing with some mystery filaments. So I'm sure some of you have seen like giveaways and stuff on Facebook, and I guess it's been a few months ago now. It's like crazy how long it took. A few months ago, I entered one from, what freaking place was this? I don't remember. It was like 3D print community or something. It doesn't even say on here. Yeah, I think it only said it on the package. But anyway, I ordered like a filament giveaway, and I was one of like, there wasn't that many people that entered, and nothing ever came of it. And I was like, well, son of a bitch! Like the chances of me winning had to be like fairly high, because there was only like a few hundred people that entered, and I had like 12 entries. So, to my amazement, I finally got something in my P.O. box, right? So I was kind of excited. It was wrapped in brown paper, got some filament. I was like, yay, cool. Free filament to try out. Well, it's totally unlabeled. So, well, I lie. I have this package of white that says 3D printer filament, PETG, color white. And it's color with a U. And then I have like this light blue roll of God only knows what. There's like I don't know, 30 or 40 grams here. And then this clear stuff that I have no idea what it is. And it just kind of amused me that it comes with this sheet that says 40 color sample packs. I don't know if they just like had sample packs that they were breaking down and giving out to people. But it has like all the different types of filament and the settings you're supposed to use with them, which is kind of handy to have. I mean, that's like a nice little reference sheet. But I don't know what this stuff is. So we're gonna try to. I mean, the chances of us figuring out exactly what it is essentially zero. But we're gonna see if we can at least get a print out of it. But no. So we're gonna try that when this is all said and done. We do have the PETG, and it looks really, really cheap. Like, I know appearances aren't everything with filament, but that has a very strange look to it for PETG. Yeah, Warboy, you're probably right. I would, except obviously for the PETG, I would assume these are just PLA because it's some of the cheapest filament available. But yeah, we'll give it a try. So that should be interesting a little bit later. You can also see I finally sort of addressed Got too many windows here. I finally sort of addressed my filament mounting situation here. You can see I've had that it's actually from Hatchbox. I've had this Hatchbox filament spool for a long time, like months, and I could never quite find a place to like mount it up here where it actually worked. And I was messing around with it the other day and finally mounted it like this. I actually took one of the frame sides off because it had another frame section here and was like a little A-frame that stood the other way. And I mounted it there, put some washers here to act as like a stop so it doesn't hit the knob and like rub strangely or anything. And then switched this other side so the feet go outwards and mounted it to my thing there. And as you can see, it actually works like kind of nice. The filament, like normally I would have my guide here to help it from keep pulling at weird angles and stuff, but I've done several hours of printing with it and it seems to work pretty well. Like some people might give you a hard time because the filament will rock a little bit, but I've honestly never had any problems with the being that this isn't like a Bowden or anything and the extruder motor's right here. I really haven't had any problems. Like unless you really tug on this, the extruder motor is not going to skip steps or cause you any problems. So one of the changes I've made recently, which I've been happy about, it's a lot easier to get filament on and off there now. Because, like, I'm sure a lot of you guys know that I was using the Prusa mounts for a long time. I mean, essentially ever since I had the printer with my little piece of PVC and stuff. And this wasn't a bad setup, but it was a little bit of a pain. Like, you had to bend these apart to get the filament off. And being that the prongs on these, or the little ears, are so short, there was quite a few times where I would bump the printer, and it was just enough to, like, rock these, and then the spool would fall out. And you don't really want 2+ pounds falling on your printer. That, like, scared me quite a few times. But nice. It's a nice little like filament holder for $10, but in its default setup, it's kind of a pain to have it like you have to screw the side off, which is not my favorite thing to do every time I want to change a roll of filament. It's plastic explosive. I am not part of ISIS. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if that's something going around the rumor mill. Not true. We'll actually just snip this filament off. And get our printer out here. This thing's so easy to move around. I haven't moved it in a while, but I used to move it all the time. The thing is so effortless to move. It's also funny. I don't know if you guys can tell. I tried to adjust the color temperature in here so you couldn't really see how red my head is. I managed to get a sunburn the other day working in the yard because I came inside and like my head hurt and I was like, why the hell does my head hurt? It still feels hot. But yeah, I managed to get a sunburn. Can tell the weather is changing. All right, so we will set this up. How does that look here? We'll set that about there. And we'll get her plugged in. Powered up. Let me get my phone here. We're going to time how long it takes this to get to 100C. Because I've heard like wildly different redneck. Yeah, I totally am. I was in the desert in an ISIS training camp. Nailed it. Totally nailed it. I'm obviously bad at lying. Let me get a timer here. Timer. Why is it set to 9 minutes? Okay, so we're just going to manually do this. We're not starting a print or anything. We're not. It's just going to be the heat bed too. So we're not preheating the hot end. There, 100 degrees, and damn it. How do you use this timer? Oh, I guess I need the stopwatch. All right, let's try this again. And that didn't actually start, so we're still good. This is from cold. It's starting at 18 degrees Celsius. All right, 100 degrees. Going. And you can see the bed is heating. We have started. All right, let me catch up on the nonsensical chat here. I glanced at it 3 times, and all times I saw comments about ISIS. All right, what's up, Rose Tech? What's up, Marcus? It was Dickface, not Dickhead. I can be a dickhead, but yeah, my friends call me Dickface for whatever reason. Making Down Under, what's up? Taste it. Is that a thing? Can you? There's different filament. I guess I could taste it, but I haven't tasted enough different filament to know what I'm tasting exactly. And there the ISIS comments started. Dawn thinks that's hilarious. Recycle them? Please don't make a cart. Oh, it's like there is a cart in the works, guys. Just a heads up. Though mine will be slightly different. Like a little bit of context to what you might expect. My dad owns a go-kart track. So, yeah. Gonna be a slightly different approach. Slightly more destructive, I would imagine. Though, if any of you saw the, oh, who was that? Was it, I forget who exactly was involved. I think it was Joel pulling Barnacles in the cart, and it pretty much destroyed it. Try settings. Yep, that's what we're doing, Gusner. Rednecks do say totally. I hate to burst your bubble. Like, we've modernized, man. So, like, as rednecks, we're where the rest of society was 10 years ago. We're catching up. Give us a break. How many times have I stripped my printer down? A couple. A couple. My head is glowing. It is glowing a little bit. It's still, like, sunburns are weird. It's still so hot. Like, it was 2 days ago that I actually got the burn, and it's still just, like, hot. Philostruder. You can't, I can't send them a bunch of bullshit filament, and they send me something worthwhile. Three minutes 71C. You're actually not too far off. Yeah, it was Joel. I'm pretty sure it was Barnacles. I don't know if you guys know who he is. His channel's quite a bit larger than Joel's. From Nerdgasm. You were a little off, Gusner. We're at 68 degrees, and we're at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Non-landfilly way. Well, I mean, if anybody, I do have a post office box. If anybody ever wants to send me empty spool rolls, I have a couple projects that I could use them for that should be, it wasn't Barnacles. Maybe it was the, I'm trying to think who it was. Maybe it wasn't. You're right. Rose Tech, are you going to put the Igus bearings back in? I am not. I am actually not. Um, we're going to try to do this. Like I've never seen someone do this, and I haven't really thought a whole lot about it, which is it might have been Chuck. You could be right. Joel, Jerry, and Chuck. See, you guys have seen the video. I think I watched it when it first came out, so it was a little while ago. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Vince, you got it. I think Vince is right. Barnacle was pushing Chuck, and I do remember Joel was running around with the camera. That is correct. So we're at 80 degrees at about just under 5 minutes. But what I'm thinking is, we're going to try to leave the carriage, the aluminum carriage, in place. So we're going to try to get underneath here. And this plan might fail immediately. We're going to try to take the 4 corner screws off and unmount the belt mount underneath, and just try to get the heat bed itself off, because all we really need to do, like, this isn't really going to be mounted. This should just float under there fairly reasonably. And the only things we really have to account for are the 4 risers in the corners and the 2 risers in the middle. So if we can kind of get those marked and, make holes, and holes, they could be huge. They could be the size of dimes, really. And I'm hoping that this will more or less just sit under there without needing any kind of mount or anything, because the fit's kind of nice. So we're at 87 degrees. You can tell, like I said, after about 80 degrees is when the ambient temperature seems to really start affecting things. Because we get up to 80 degrees relatively quickly. And then it'll probably take us that long again or more to get from, 80 to 100. To melt the mouse wires, we'd have to go to insulation of the heatbed wires. Oh, I don't think I'll melt the mouse wires. It's not actually touching it. It might have looked like it was touching it, but it's not. So we should be good. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's what's up with the time. Oh, you can't see that at all. Not even a little bit. Good old white balance, eh? 7 minutes. We're at 91 degrees. But what is up to the couple guys in Twitch? Wouldn't it heat up faster if you place cork on the build plate? Yeah, it would. It would heat up really fast if we put cork on both sides, but that's the problem is like, it's not just about getting it up to temp initially, it's maintaining that temp during the print. Like, say we want to have our part cooling fan on, and we could test this. I can show you what I'm talking about. When this gets to 100 degrees and we kind of get our time, and I'll write it down here, I'll move the extruder to the center of the build plate and turn the cooling fan on, and it'll probably give us a thermal runaway error in a minute or two, if I had to guess. Because as soon as you get air flowing over the build plate from the part cooling fan and your ambient temperature is low, it just can't keep up, and it ends up giving you a thermal runaway error. Yeah, the LED back there indicates that it's heating. And I think that's called duty cycle. How it actually works is, it doesn't apply, like, say you set like a temperature, it doesn't apply a specific amount of power to the build plate to get to that temp. It applies maximum power for like intermittent periods. And as you can see, it's on all the time. Like, if you have it this hot, your build plate is going to be at full power the entire time you print. Yeah, and that's actually how most electronics work. It doesn't actually vary the amount of voltage. It varies how often it sends maximum voltage. which is why it's like when I did the video about power consumption for printers, it's a little bit tough to determine in a short period of time how much your printer is using as far as power. You basically need to like go for extended periods of time and get the average, because it cycles between using max power and almost no power, and then max power, no power, and it just will vary how frequently it's at max power based on like the ambient temp, like the hot end nozzle temp, how well it's insulated. And I did see someone ask earlier if I use the E3D silicon sock. I actually haven't been, to be honest. The temp is more stable with it, but I had problems with like I change nozzles not super often, but often enough, usually like 2 or 3 times a week at least. And I had problems with like they fit great when you initially put them on, but it seems like if you ever take them off like more than once, they don't really fit all that tight, and I had some problems with a few of them. And I kind of got in the habit of like whenever I would change nozzles and stuff, I would put a new sock on, and like you run out of socks pretty quick. All right, so we're at 99. As soon as it gets to 100, I'll stop it here. Because like the last probably 2 or 3 minutes, it's been going from 97 to 100. Because I've seen people like have to print with the bed at like 120. And I've seen people say it can take up to a half hour to get to 120. Yeah, Warboy, the lacs are sweet. There we go, 100 degrees. It took, we'll say 11 minutes. It took 11 minutes and 3 seconds. So, like I said, now we're at temp. So, we'll move our Z down a tiny little bit. Oh, I can't actually move it down anymore, but that's fine. Do I have to home? There, we'll home it, and it should allow us to do that. you just got your enclosure. Oh shit, we hit our bed. Why did it hit the bed? Why did it hit the bed? Yeah, it pushed the hot end into the bed for whatever reason. Anyway. Move it in the center. Get it in the center of the bed here. And we're still at 100 degrees on the bed. Now we'll turn the fan on. And you'll see... I might not be able to, actually. I might not be able to turn the fan on. Damn it. I thought I'd be able to. Well, unfortunate, but take my word for it. I know I recommend you don't do that on a regular basis, but take my word for it. If I would turn the part cooling fan on 100% here, this would not be able to maintain 100 degrees on the bed. So that's kind of the problem you run into. And there's not a lot of filament that requires high bed temp and cooling, but there have been times, like I remember the Monumental filament printed a little bit better with a little bit of part cooling, but it also required like really hot temps on the bed to maintain adhesion. Warm the nozzle. Well, Nicholas, that'll turn the extruder fan on. We were trying to turn the actual part cooling fan on the front, and I don't think you can do that unless you've started a print. But anyway, you guys get the idea. Yeah, I can see it. Now that it's up to temp, it won't have to like have power on constantly, but I mean it is flickering. I mean, you are right, but it more or less stays on all the time. Compared to like 60 degrees where it'll turn off for a few seconds at a time sometimes. But anyway, we'll just hit reset here. And we'll move the print head out of the way. I wonder why it moved the nozzle into the bed. Okay. So that's out of the way. We're going to turn it off. And I'll leave this sitting here. 11 minutes. Took 11 minutes. So let's try this. Like I said, I haven't... I don't really have a plan here. So we're going to do our best to work this out. Like I said, the first way we're going to try to do it is to just basically get the heat bed off, and it's still a little toasty. It's still a little hot to the touch. That is not the right size. That is not the right size. Damn it. There we go. We're going to take these 4 corner bolts out. And I think Gustner said he did essentially what we're going to try to do. We're going to get the build plate off and then just kind of gently press it into the cork, which should leave us enough of a mark. We could also use a trick I've done with mounting figures to different things. And that's to, you could put a tiny little bit of paint on the bottom of each of these and then press it on there and it'll mark the holes almost exactly. But we'll cross that bridge in a minute after we get this off. Because I'm hoping, someone asked about putting the IGUS bushings back on, but I don't think we're going to do that today. I honestly don't have any desire to change them. For whatever reason, the original linear bearings are not all that noisy anymore. They are more noisy than the bushings, but it just feels to me like the build plate is a lot more stable. Like it has a lot more less play in it. And I know we've discussed that on stream before. I think it probably has a little bit to do with the smooth rods that came with the original kits are not really all that smooth. There's a little bit of a I hesitate to say rough, but they're not perfectly smooth. Like they're not chrome rods. And I think that leads to the IGUS bushings wearing a little bit more prematurely. You just got the notification email. But yeah, I guess we will. The first thing we'll do is cut the cork to the size of the build plate because it's a little bit oversized. I don't know what size the build plate is. Probably, what, about 10 inches? Somewhere in that region. And then I think this is the other size hexes. But I think this will be enough to let us get the plate off without really having to like recalibrate anything or do anything too crazy. But there's just the 4 outside bolts or screws or whatever you want to call them. And then the 2 that mount this belt holder to the bottom of the plate. So there's not really a whole lot holding it on. I think that's out. And we're off. Excellent. That thing is hot. But I guess I never finished that thought. Someone asked earlier why we wouldn't put cork on the top. You can't print. It would definitely insulate it quite well if you have the cork on the top. But obviously you can't print on a cork. Or maybe you can, I don't know. But at the very least, the heat wouldn't get to the actual place where the filament's going to be contacting the build plate. So that's not ideal. Alright, we'll get our cutting board here. And we should be able to disconnect the cable chain, which should let us twist this around just enough to kind of work with it. So we're just going to lay it on here, and you can see it's just slightly oversized. These are 12 by 12 squares, so it looks like our build plate's, I don't know, about 10 by 9.5 or 9 3/4, somewhere in that region. So we'll line it up on these edges, and I think we're going to set it back a little bit. So we're going to offset this about 1/4 inch. So we don't actually have foam going like completely out to the edge. That way it'll sit back under the bed a tiny little bit and won't get in the way of anything. Is there something I could use as a spacer instead of actually trying to measure it? I actually have these little graphite test prints that we did when I was testing the magnetic filament, and I'm just going to use those as a little spacer. And then we'll just use a utility knife to cut this. Because it definitely doesn't, like, obviously we want to do as nice a job as we can, but this does not have to be exact. It does not matter at all. Alright. And cork can be a little bit of a pain to cut, because if your blade isn't super sharp, it can do what it just did there a little bit, and pull. So I've always just like worked the knife like that back and forth. So you're not pulling on it too bad. You actually end up cutting it to give you a nice clean edge. Alright, so there's our first edge. Go a little past where we need to go. And we'll just break that off. Alright, now we need to cut it the other dimension. So that was that way. I'll get a trimmer this way. And same deal, we're just going to offset it. That's probably, if I had to guess, like 3/8 of an inch, something like that. Maybe a little bit more than 3/8 of an inch. Seems pretty close. So we'll just get a score in there, and then we'll move this and do the actual cut. Luckily, there's nothing really on the edge of these heat beds, so you don't really risk doing anything to them that I can tell. I'm going to flex that a little bit just so I can see that line. Alright, there's a square of, well, not quite a square, but there's our hunk of cork that should be exactly the size of the bed. Well, a little less than the size of the bed. See, it fits quite nicely with about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch around the perimeter. So it shouldn't like stick out and get caught on anything underneath, like if we're like wiping down with a rag or anything. Is PETG or PLA stable enough to use as a belt holder for the heat bed? It does get rather... Well, it gets exactly as hot as the heat bed temp is going to be. There are standoffs under here, so the piece will end up being about a 1/4 inch away, but I wouldn't be surprised if PLA would warp over time. This piece, like the back cable chain mount on my heat bed is actually PLA, but I don't think this tab actually heats up. But I have seen people who printed this in PLA have problems with it warping a little bit. All right, so let's do what I had mentioned before. Let's actually put a dab of paint on these and then press this on, and it should mark our places for us. I grabbed white. I think I'm going to grab red. So this is just like some red acrylic hobby paint that I have for painting little miniatures for gaming. We're just going to put a little dab of this on the edges of these pieces. And it won't hurt anything being on here. And it should quite accurately mark our hole locations. All right, that looks about right. And we're going to oversize these holes a little bit so our sheet has room to shift around. And we'll just press that down a bit. And bam! I know it's a little tough to see, but we've got little red dots everywhere. We have one of these mounting risers. Then I actually just like wipe that paint back off because it doesn't have time to dry. And we only used a little bit. All good. Now to cut these holes, I don't actually know. Cork is kind of tough. Like if we would drill this, it's going to rip it. So I guess we're just going to take our knife and basically make little square holes around these. And I guess I could have the other camera over here. Let's clean up a little bit. So you're not looking at my stupid face the whole time. And we can kind of set this to the side for the time being. Because we're actually done with that until we do reassembly. Someone must have asked what? Brian asked, what will you gain with cork under the heat bed? I missed the beginning of the stream. Well, this is something we talked about doing during the winter. My basement's really cold. And on prints that require a high heat bed temp, I actually had some problems with it being able to maintain that with the part cooling fan on at all. And I've seen people do this with other printers, and I was just kind of curious if this would be something that's worth doing on the Mk2. I just talked about moving cameras. So, as you can see here, we're just going to, like, actually cut these holes out. And I don't know how the focus is there, and it looks like we have shadows galore, but we're just going to, like, you can see our little marks there. And we're going to oversize these about, I don't know, 100%. So we have room to shift the position of this underneath. So about like so. No big whoop. About, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch, maybe a hair more than that, square. And that should give us plenty of room for clearance and be able to shift this around a little bit if we didn't center it exact. I don't know. The nice thing is, if we don't like this, the cork is actually soft enough that we can just rip it out without having to disassemble it. So if you'd ever do this and you're like, man, I hate this, or if we have like clearance problems for whatever reason, we can just rip it and break it out. Because cork is not a super tough material. But no, ideally, I think the best way to do this would be with like a little punch. So there's those. And you can see these aren't exactly centered. They're certainly not bad, but like I'm going to offset this one a little bit towards that edge. The only thing we really have on the underside of the bed is actually the wire, and I'm hopefully we have enough clearance that's not going to really press against the heat bed too bad, because we obviously don't want to create any like lumps in our build plate. I already had enough of a problem with mine not being, you know, sort of perfectly flat. You see, this is really easy to do. Just takes a few minutes. I'll try not to break that edge out. All right, we got it. That one's not quite square. Let's square that up. It's definitely not rocket science here. But I think, Gustner, you said you did this. Did you notice any... I mean, I would imagine there was improvement. Yeah, a drill bit sounds like it would work much better than it actually would. Unfortunately. I've worked with cork enough to know that. It's kind of like how a drill bit works on flesh. Like, you can't really drill a hole in a person. It just kind of, like, tears. Cork is the same way. It's because it's basically little chunks of stuff pressed and glued a little bit together. And all you end up doing, even cutting it, it tends to tear more than it cuts. Don't ask how I know you can't drill a person, but word on the street is it doesn't work out too good. All right, so there we go. Last one. Because even there, like, we cut it, and it just kind of wants to tear a little bit and leave rough edges. But good to go. Let's see how this fits. So here's our heat bed. Get my camera up here. Seems good. And you can see, like, there, I know it's a little tough to see, but our wire is under there, and I don't know if we should... I don't know what we should do. I really don't want to cut a channel for that, because that's going to be a big old mess. But at the same time, it does feel like these risers are almost exactly the same thickness as this cork, so I'm kind of thinking we might have to do something about that to relieve that. I think it actually went this way. Yeah, that's how it fits. Because I'm kind of thinking if we just try to bolt this down, there's going to be pressure there. So maybe we do have to cut a little bit of a channel there, unfortunately. You try to press that wire into the cork. Maybe we can just kind of V a little trough out. Yeah, that didn't work at all. So I was considering, like, pulling this tape up. I guess we shouldn't do that. That's not what we really want to be doing with ourselves. Well, damn it. What did you end up doing here, Gusner? Did you end up having any clearance problems, or was your sheet not as thick as this? Dremel time. Oh, we actually could use the Dremel for that. Ew. We could do that. It's going to make a hell of a mess, but we could just like grind a little trough in there. Right across there. I gotta say, that sounds like a plan. Gusner, don't do that. Yeah, I think it's Dremel time. Got like the perfect bit too. All right. See, having the shop organized is helpful. All right. This bit's a little small, but it is kind of exactly what we want. So I think what we'll actually do is the paint method. I'll leave that where it is and just put a tiny little bit of paint across that wire. And it should pretty clearly mark where we want to be. And again, a little bit of acrylic paint will never hurt anybody. So put it on there. Get this where we want it. That's not the right way, is it? There we go. And Mark-a-rooney dooney. Mario. OMG. Yeah, we did. How what is it? How I do it? Yeah, we did. See, and there we got a reasonable mark on there. All right, so we know where. My Faja calling me. So we know where our wire is going to be. So we'll just come over here and make a huge effing mess with the Dremel tool. And I've got this little, I don't know what you'd call this. It's like a little spiral sort of cutting sort of thing. I wish it was slightly bigger. I used to have a slightly bigger one, but I broke it. But I'll just grind this out a bit. Oh yeah, that's working like perfectly. This is only going to take a minute. Because the Cork's shitty, crumbly qualities are actually working for us now. Oh, yeah. That is working much better than I was anticipating it was going to be honest. And we'll oversize it just a little bit. That worked beautifully, I gotta say. Good looking out, whoever suggested the Dremel. That looks like a person with a plan did this. I gotta say. All right, check this out. Can I get a hell yeah? Because hell yeah. Let me switch that. Look at that. That is like perfect. It's like half the depth of the cork. Exactly where our wire is going to be. Do a test fit here. Oh my goodness. That is perfect. I can feel it a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit under there. But overall, that is better than I was expecting this to turn out. If we're being perfectly honest. Hell yeah. All right. This is a lot less kind of, I don't know if anybody ever watched the Red Green Show. This is a lot less Handyman Corner-esque than I was expecting it to be. I gotta freaking say. All right. So, we're like good. I'm sorry if I'm a little dumbfounded here, but this is just working out better than I was anticipating. All right. Plus 800 points for whoever suggested the Dremel. I don't know if we're keeping score, but if we ever do, you're on the board, man. Okay, so I think we're ready to put this back together. Holy crap! We're only an hour in, and we've basically accomplished something. What the hell's going on? Something's going to go wrong here. It's gotta. Let me get this other camera up here. All right, so we're just going to basically set this back on here. Real nice like. Oh, we have got a problem. I can show you guys. I can show you the issue. And I'm kind of in hindsight now, I'm not surprised. The bearing holders, everybody see my picture of George over there? I need to hang that up somewhere. So the problem is I have the bearing holders here, and they have screw heads that come up above the build plate. So we're going to have to use the paint method yet again. And we're going to mark the heads of all these, and we'll have to put little reliefs in the cork for those to accommodate. But again, that's not that big of a deal. It's just one more step we got to do here. One million bonus points for the person who remembers what that photo is called. Little bit of trivia. I mean, it's not really surprising that I know because I own the picture, but. And we'll oversize these as well, since it's going to be tough to know exactly where they're supposed to be. I think that's about right there. So we'll press down. We'll get our marks. And hopefully that marked them. But yeah, does anybody remember? It's not The Last Supper. It's not I was going to say that's not a bad guess. That's kind of a bad guess. But thanks for guessing. It's called Please Burn Me. I'll give you guys a few more seconds and then I'll tell you. My wife and I have watched a shocking amount of Seinfeld. All right, so we're doing pretty good there. You can see we're marked, and like I said, we're gonna oversize these. There's our 6 bolt holes. I don't know why I can never orient the camera correctly. It's like flying a heli. We've got our 6 things there. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and use my Dremel again and just kind of put reliefs in them because they're only about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch deep. And I think we're better off not putting holes the whole way through. So we'll just grind these out a little bit. So there's 2 of them. And sorry I'm doing this down to the side. I just don't want to make a hell of a mess. He's not nude, by the way. He has boxers on. Ah, somebody got it. All right, this is starting to resemble like a manufactured piece of some kind. So there we have all our holes. I wish I would have made these. I could have done those with the Dremel now in hindsight. So we have reliefs for our holes there, and you see they're just most of the way through. But if the idea is to insulate here, we want to leave as much of the cork intact as we can. So anyway, right, guys, that, my friends, is called The Art of Seduction. And it's from if anybody's watched Seinfeld, it was from an episode where, sorry, I'm incapable of doing more than one thing at a time. George had gotten some risque photos taken, and then Newman ended up, who's like a mail delivery guy, ended up intercepting them. And it was funny. All right, so we should be good to go now for mounting. And it feels like the only thing that's really rubbing by the feel of it is those risers in the corners. So we should be good to go. That makes sense. Start a cork shop on eBay. I do like working with cork. I've worked with it a lot over the years, like doing various like gaming things and hobby stuff. It's a very unique material. I do enjoy working with it for the most part. If you're not used to it, it can be a massive pain in the ass because it's kind of brittle. It's really unforgiving. But man, there's so many things that like projects and stuff that if you put a cork base on them, it makes them so sweet. So sweet. All right, let's try to get a screw in here. This is a little awkward to hold. I haven't yet dropped the printer off the table, but I wouldn't be surprised if that happens one of these days. That will not be a good day. And it's the same deal whenever you're mounting these. Like, obviously, it applies even if you're not using the cork. You want to kind of get your bolt lined up, and then make sure you have a pretty firm press between the aluminum plate and the heat bed plate, so there's no space between your screw and the riser, and it actually pulls down nice and flush. Because otherwise you can have some problems with your heat bed not being level. And also, do not over tighten these. If you over tighten these and strip those little risers out, you kind of have a situation on your hand, because the bolts go down through the top, and they're underneath the PEI sheet. Oh, somebody, who said that? Carl has a good point. Foil tape would help reflect the heat. I agree. But like I said, that's something we can do in the next tutorial. Right now, like, I don't really think this needs like a proof of concept, but this is kind of just like a proof of concept to see if this makes enough difference that it matters. What the hell? Oh, I missed the riser. There we go. So I missed that one, so I'm actually going to back the screw back out, make sure the riser is pressed against the aluminum plate really well, and then screw the screw in. And again, do not over tighten these, because it is kind of a bad situation to find yourself in if you strip these. I wish our cut could have been a little bit better on this front edge. I don't know why it's not centered quite right. But overall, this doesn't look bad underneath. Cork definitely like classes things up a bit for some reason. I don't know why that is exactly. What is going on? This mouse does not work on glass at all. Have I taken some kind of measurements? Yeah, we did time. We timed how long it took the bed to go from... It was sitting at approximately 18 degrees Celsius, and then we timed it up to 100 degrees Celsius, and it took 11 minutes and 3 seconds. So as soon as I get this bolted back on here, we'll do the same test again and see how long it takes. I would imagine at the lower temps, like from 0 to 60, will probably be about the same amount of time, but hopefully I would imagine the time from about 60 degrees to 100 degrees will be quite a bit better, because we won't basically be bleeding temperature into the surrounding area quite as bad. I think we're successfully mounted. All I need to do is remount the belt block underneath here, which isn't bad, but we are in the home stretch here. We just have this block yet to put back in, which, as I said, isn't too bad. And same deal, you just want to press on the heat plate or the build plate from the top as you screw these in, so all of your components that are being tightened here are flush and you don't have any space. And same deal with the outer screws. You do not want to over tighten these. That is not good. And luckily the belt is, I know the lighting is not ideal there. We got freaking shadows galore. But the belt's flexible enough that you can just kind of like bend it down a little bit without stressing it too much. And get them started. The secret to that is having a hex wrench with a ball end. I don't know if that's quite focused, but this is one of the ball end hex wrenches that came with the kit. And that's how you can kind of tighten this at an angle that you normally wouldn't be able to to use a hex wrench at. You'd end up stripping either your wrench or the screw. And then before we finish up here, I'm just going to take my straight edge and we'll just double check that our build plate is pulled down tight against this aluminum plate, and it's not going to be perfectly level. My bed was never perfectly level, but as level as it can be. And again, these do not need to be super tight. All right, that should be it. And you can see it actually looks kind of nice, I gotta say. We did a reasonable job cutting it. It's pretty even around the sides and stuff. There's no clearance issues because we're not really taking up any additional space. We're just filling that void between this aluminum plate and the build surface. So, all in all, it's kind of cool. And you can see that we did this. You see that we've got nice cork edge around our build plate, and it's inset a little bit. I wish we had inset it a tiny bit more. Like, that's only about a 1/16 of an inch back. It's not that big of a deal. But it's inset the distance we wanted on the sides. That's about, I don't know, 3/30 seconds, we'll say. Something like that. But very cool. And then, like I said, we're just going to take this straight edge, little mechanical roller, go from corner to corner. Seems flat. Seems flat. I think we did all right. I think we have it mounted back properly. But all these risers, like I was saying earlier, all these risers you can kind of see, they actually come through the bed on the top. And the problem with stripping them is that these are actually under your PEI sheet. So if you need to replace one of these, you don't actually have access to the hex bolt top, and you'd probably end up having to replace your PEI sheet. You'd end up having to peel this off and put a new one on if you would manage to strip those somehow. And that would not be good. All right, so we're going to plug this bad boy back in. Or maybe it's a bad girl. I don't know. I don't know if Prusa has gendered their machines. There we go. And we're generally, you guys probably can't see this. We're generally around 18C down here. Looks like it's at about 21. It might be because we were handling it. Cool it a bit. Should make a lot of difference. But as you can see, or you might not be able to see, that's the timer from before. 11 minutes and 3 seconds to get to 100C from ambient temp here. And I don't know if I can get it in a position where you can see everything. That's not too bad. Oh, it was all right before I moved it. Let me adjust the focus on that. Is that the right camera? See if we can get that to focus. And we'll start our timers here. I guess that already was about focused. Does that look focused? There we go. So we'll leave it there. We'll quit while we're ahead. All right, so we're going to reset our timer. We can go to settings, temperature, bed, go to 100. And clickety. Oh, it's 101. Damn it. All right, there we go. And we're heating. And just for verification, there you can see. Can we get everything? There we have the LED in the background. I guess I can move it up there. But there we go. I'm going to run upstairs and let my cat in. He's up there scratching the door like a little a-hole. But I would imagine this is going to take less time. I guess how much less time is yet to be seen. But let me catch up on chat here. He had a question again. Nillabean, why did you install cork on the heat plate? Yeah, it's kind of like Gusner said. It's kind of like a proof of concept because I've seen people do this before. It's kind of to prove that the idea does work. It just so happens that the space between the build plate and the mount for it is perfect, like absolutely dead on perfect. I think the cork we measured it was 5 millimeters, and that space under there is almost exactly 5 millimeters. And like I mentioned earlier several times, I'm in my basement here. My basement is not heated. So during the winter in particular, the machine struggles a little bit to keep high temps on the build plate, like anything that's over about 80 degrees C, even like a mild draft down here, which sometimes I can't prevent. Even a mild draft can impact the machine's ability to keep the build plate nice and hot and can consistently heated. And what that causes, I couldn't actually recreate it because we can't turn the part cooling fan on without having a print running. But what this causes is called a thermal runaway, where the machine is noticing that it can't keep up for whatever reason, and it'll actually error out and cause a print to fail. And yes, like multiple people have said already, ideally, if you have the space, an enclosure for your printer is the way to go. Like lots and lots and lots of people have had really great success with the lac enclosures. And sorry about the focus. It's just a little tough. It's actually not that the LCD is not focused. It's just the way that the camera tends to deal with the LCD. Let me bring the gain down. That usually helps more than anything. See, it's not actually the focus. It's just how poorly the cameras deal with bright stuff. That looks a little bit better. But there we go. This is going significantly faster. Yeah, and it's not even that cold in here. But like I was saying, in the winter, my basement is about 60 degrees Celsius. So when it tries to go much over that, it struggles a bit. But enclosures are definitely the way to go if you have the space. The problem with me is with the... Oh, you can direct G-code commands. That's kind of cool. We should have done that. The cat's getting pissed off. Enclosures are the way to go. The problem with me is like running a channel and stuff and constantly doing things with my printer. It's just really inconvenient for a number of reasons to have it in an enclosure. So I've just kind of learned to make do without it. Though I still do recommend that people go that route, especially if you're going to print ABS. Like I have finally done some printing with ABS, and I haven't really had any issues with small prints, but I haven't printed anything big. And if you're going to be printing big ABS prints, the higher and more stable you can keep the ambient temp, the better your results are going to be. But yeah, I'm gonna tend to the cat quick. That's at 80 degrees in 4 minutes, so we are already quite a bit ahead of schedule. So I'll try to get right back down here. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, 60C basement. It's not heated. It is, like, I insulated all the windows. Like, this orange thing back here is actually one of the windows where I sealed it, put insulation in it, and then 2-inch foam board in front of it, which helped, but... No, 60 degrees Celsius. Or yeah, 60 degrees. Yeah, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sorry. Fahrenheit. That's a little toasty. All right, man, there's cork stuff everywhere. I definitely smell something. I'm sure the cork will make some smells for a little while. But I actually wanted to get my soldering iron out and test to see if we could ignite the cork, but I don't think there's any risk of fire. No, it's 60 Fahrenheit, guys. I'm sorry, it's 60 Fahrenheit. It was 11 minutes and 3 seconds before, so I don't know, it's hard to tell. We might not have cut a dramatic amount of time off. But it seems like it's progressing a bit quicker than it did before. Did he not clean the paint off? No, I wiped most of it off with my finger. We only used a tiny little bit. The smell is not the paint. The smell is the cork. But it seems, I guess, like, I can't watch the video back. But it seems like, especially at those lower temps, we dramatically increased the speed that it heated up. But I don't know, it's chugging right along here. I think it did cut probably at least 2 minutes off. So it definitely did help. Maybe over time the cork will get so dry. Well, that's the thing. It's not like the dryness. The cork is already fairly dry. It's been in my basement for years. Obviously, being right next to a heat source will... All right, we're almost there. There we are. And you could see it's for a little while it's been flickering. So it eased off of full power before it got there. But there's, 9 minutes and a little over 9 minutes. So we cut about 2 minutes off the heat up time, which I think is fairly significant. I think it'd be even more pronounced if we were going over that. But no, very cool. So clearly, I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that it does help insulate, but I wish I had like a thermal vision thing, because I imagine we'd also see that the consistency of the temperature over the board is probably a little bit better. The Mk2 heat bed is already designed to kind of compensate for the corners being cooler. But even on the very tip of the corner here, this bed is nice and hot. But no, very, very cool. What's doing dick face? Why are we doing this? 'Cause we can, man. 'Cause we can. No, it should just improve like the overall performance of the heat bed. Like I've said several times, I'm sorry to the guys that have heard this a bunch of times, but if you're printing in cold ambient temps and can't for whatever reason or don't want to have an enclosure, I think this could help you keep your heat bed at temp. And now the thermistor is protected. That's true. In the name of science. But yeah, I would imagine the printer will use, again, it's not, the energy consumption is not significant in the first place, but this will almost certainly reduce the machine's energy use, like especially at high temps like this. I know it's a little tough to tell, to test objectively without doing some kind of test, but it seems like the heat bed spends a little bit more time off. Like the flickering is a little less erratic or frantic, I guess would be the word. But all right, so mission accomplished. And like I said, it actually looks kind of nice. If you take your time and get nice cuts on there and stuff, it kind of has a nice, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Rustic look. Is that what it is, Hallen? About 19% improvement? Like I said, if you ever have to go, it's not often that you have to go over 100 C on your heat bed, but if you ever do, I think every degree higher you go, you're going to notice more and more and more improvement. Yeah, and ideally you would recalibrate your PID. But for the most part, like I know I haven't had the camera on it, but for the most part, this is sitting pretty stably at 100 C, which it really didn't do before, honestly. Before, it would walk around quite a bit. And you can see there, it's pretty much, it probably has dipped up and down a degree, but for the most part, that's pretty rock solid for 100 C. Like, it's not generally like that in my basement. Yeah, hell, there it hasn't even moved a degree. That's kind of not how it was before, so. If you ever have prints that are really sensitive to bed temp, I think this would help also. But I personally haven't printed with anything that's like that, but there probably are things. Now I can't mount a cam to the bed, oh no. I never did anyway, so. I guess for some people that might matter. And it really wouldn't prevent it. All you'd have to do is maybe trim like a corner out. Like if you have one of those mounts that kind of goes under the corner here. You just kind of have to trim this corner out a tiny little bit. And you can go ahead and sandwich your mount in there. Do we have a project to print or paint? Well, the next thing we wanted to do, I guess we can move on to the next part of this, is the next part of our activities today was to print with our mystery filaments. And if anybody didn't see the beginning of the stream, I had entered a giveaway on Facebook or whatever, and they were giving away filament, and if I'm not mistaken, they said they were giving away rolls. And it could have been the case there was an asterisk, and it said we're not actually giving away rolls, but if I remember correctly, they were giving away rolls of filament. But anyway, I got a brown paper package. It wasn't even a bag. It was like butcher's paper wrapped up and just like wrapped in tape. And I got this little package of filament finally. I'm shocked I got anything. And it came with a single piece of paper that's like a cheat sheet for like all the different filament types and the temp settings and speed settings and all that crap. But the filaments aren't marked. This one is marked 3D printer filament, PETG. Color with a U, white. So this is marked, that's PETG. But then there's like this clear crap that's not marked, I have no idea what it is. And then there's like this baby blue stuff that I have no idea what it is. So we were going to kind of, I guess I can go ahead and preheat here, because we don't need the bed at 100 degrees. We're going to try to print with these. I have no idea what to expect. I would imagine, I would all but bet my left testicle that this is PLA. This, I don't know. This kind of looks like, I had another filament that looks almost exactly like this. Because it's got kind of like a filmy, it's clear, but it's got like a filmy clearness to it. I actually can't find it. But I had another filament that looked very similar to this. Because I have T-line over here. It looks kind of similar to the nylon. Like I have a sample of nylon here. And it looks sort of similar to that. But God only knows what it actually is. But we can try to print with it. What's the worst that can happen, right? Let me adjust the camera again. What is the worst that can happen? Hey, fellas. Let's move this over here. Because I guess we might as well leave the printer on the table here. And we'll bring the gain back up on that camera since we took it way down. Alright, this should be about right. This stuff, like the blue... I don't know, it doesn't break like PLA. This might be ABS. Doesn't smell like anything. Doesn't taste like anything. The clear is brittle. The clear is very brittle. I don't know what that means, but we're doing our scientific investigation here. And the claim is that this is PETG. So I guess we could start with that. You gotta go to work. Don't tell anyone else that I'm in ISIS. Please. Ritual was claiming earlier that I was in ISIS for whatever reason. So I don't know if you started as a troll and kind of just got into the stream or what was going on, or if you're one of my subs and you just like messing with me. But yeah. So acetone test. Hopefully we don't set ourselves on fire here. Let me get a little container. Because yeah, that is a good idea. If this is ABS, which I kind of think this is ABS. Let's trim a piece off and throw it in some acetone here. I guess we can do that with all of these. Not calibrating is what ISIS would do. Okay, we're in ISIS. We make our own rules. We will do Z. We're not doing XYZ. So there we go. Nozzle is clear. Our fingers are burnt. So we'll do a quick calibration. Neither of these is doing much of anything in the acetone, honestly. I guess the clear is melting a little bit. But the blue, maybe we were wrong. Maybe this isn't ABS. Ah, they are both softening. We'll let that sit there for a minute and see what happens. How does PETG react to acetone? Red head, now red finger. Yeah, I mow my grandmother's grass. She has a big ass house with a big ass piece of property, and she kind of let it up to me to get a new mower this year, and I got a commercial zero turn. It's like an $8,000 mower. And I was supposed to just go out and service her old mower and stuff, and I ended up mowing for like 4 hours because that thing's fun to drive. The PETG doesn't react at all. Gotcha. So we're going to try to unload this filament. I don't know if any of you guys remember. I guess I have you on stream and get some input from people. So... That's freaking camera. Back it up, son. Right, so here is my extruder, obviously. And here is my extruder in focus. Right, so as of late, when I try to unload filament, like I'm doing unload filament, that's what it does. And I was talking to a couple guys in chat the other day. I think my PTFE liner needs replaced. I think it got damaged inside and it catches a little bit. Because if I pull on it, it'll come out. There, I think the tip actually broke off of that filament piece. Actually... We're learning all kinds of things on today's stream. If you tug it too hard, you might break your tip. Fact. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it just came out that clean. I can't imagine that came out that clean. Or either that or the piece broke off down at the PTFE liner, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I think I need to order some PTFE tubing and replace that piece. Because I didn't do it on stream. It's one of the few things I've done to this printer that I didn't do on stream. Is I actually took the front cover of the extruder assembly off and actually pulled the extruder out, or the hot end, and checked everything, because some of you guys that have been with me a long time remember that I kind of suspected that I had bent my heat break a long time ago. And I actually took it out and looked at it, and I don't think I did. I don't actually think I did. You don't think you can unscrew those by hand? Huh. I can. I can, obviously. We will see. That's why it's nice to have these things. We're gonna actually put the old mount on here, because this mount actually works really well for the samples. With my, it's a piece of 3/4 inch PVC with 2 little like cardboard circles that I cut out, and it actually works really well for these sample rolls. Just do it about like so. And they don't really tend to go anywhere. And then I just like, if you grab these and pull the bottom part out a little bit, so that both of these are pushing in on the piece of tubing. I've actually been using this setup since basically I've had my printer. It seems to work quite well. But no, with these tension screws, you should not have a ton of tension on there. There's a measurement, I think, that you can kind of ballpark the tension, but I've never really had any problem with having them just like, they're finger tight, but they're a little snug. So we're going to move this away from the heat bed. And the load filament function works fine. I've never had any problems with that. Every day is hand day. Yeah, if you can't unscrew them by hand, I mean, no offense, but you've either got, like, lady fingers or they're way too tight. It's probably one of those, if I had to guess. Oh, that's cool, Frederick. Congrats. Welcome to the club, man. See you later, how I do it. Thanks for stopping by. Well, I was actually, I forget, I think it was 3D Maker Noob's video, and we kind of had a very, very brief discussion about this, because, he did a video about basically calibrating E-steps. I don't think he called it that, but it was essentially what was going on there. And anybody that doesn't know, E-steps is the number of steps that your stepper motor actually has to turn to get like a given amount of filament to move through it. And it's probably the case, I don't know what that video is called, but who said that? Where's that comment? Frederick, if you look on my channel, let me see if I can look right now and see what it's called. I actually did a video on calibrating E-steps. I don't know if I just called it that or if it was in a stream. I don't know. Does anybody remember what that video was? I don't recall. Sign the streams, praying with acetone. Oh, it was the extruder calibration. Oh, that was a stream. Damn it. I don't remember exactly where that was. But we came back and did that another time. But there's a fairly simple process for calibrating your extruder, where you basically just tell the machine, because you can actually do it from the control panel. You tell the machine to extrude a fixed amount of filament, like 100 millimeters or something like that. And before you do it, actually like mark from a fixed point 100 millimeters, and then compare the amount you told it to extrude, and not out here, like actually pulling into the assembly. You compare the amount you told it to move to the amount it actually moved, and then if you Google it, there's a fairly simple little equation that you can do, and you can actually like or you can modify that value in the firmware with Pronterface or your printer interface of choice. Oh, you did see it, okay? Because I think a lot of people are under the impression that all of these machines are like perfectly calibrated from the factory. And like if you saw when I did it, I think my value, if I'm remembering this correctly, was my E-step value went from like 120 something or 130 something to 160 something once we had actually like calibrated it. And because it could just be the case that your E-step setting is off. Like I don't know if they do some kind of... Prusa had the extruder calibration in the firmware, but But yeah, it's worth doing if anyone is having that problem where they think they're under extruding a little bit or even over extruding, because like obviously you can set your extrusion multiplier, but that setting is a little heavy-handed sometimes, and it can I've personally had it cause some problems. But it's worth taking a look at your E-step calibration if you haven't yet, Because that way, if you get that right and just like reflash it to your firmware, then it's just right. You know what I mean? And unless you update your firmware, then you might have to readdress it. But yeah, their Aspie's got it. Because it's the same for all printers. Like, the way you change it in the firmware is slightly different depending on the firmware your machine uses. But in general, it's all about the same. I've actually got one of the... Oh, I need to clean the heat bed. Oh no, oh no. I've actually got a spinner frame that's sliced on here for this nozzle and stuff. And this is just like PLA temps. I think we got it in time. Let's get this camera about right. No, I'm hopefully like, I have a Patreon page. I try not to plug it a lot, but I do have a Patreon page for anybody that likes to support, you know, channels that way. And I think that payment gets sent out like today or tomorrow. And a good chunk of that money I'm going to use this month to actually get a pair of soft boxes. So, like, you see here, like, there's shadows everywhere, and shadows are such a pain in the ass when you're trying to do things, like, up close. And I'm hoping soft boxes will help with that, because I have lights here, but they're ghetto, like, you know, can lights from Lowe's with parchment paper over them, which works okay, but I don't know how long we've been doing this now, and it's just kind of time to improve the lighting situation. I have a feeling this is just PLA. This seems to be printing kind of nice with just like PLA temps. Seems to be alright. You see, this is one of the spinner frames for, I think it's this same spinner frame that I have here, actually, for this one. The one we did out of bronze fill. And I gotta say, oh my god, this one out of bronze fill is amazing. I actually had a guy arguing with me the other day that I printed this. He didn't believe that I printed it. Because I actually had to pop one of the bearings out. Because the outside you can't really tell because it's polished and it looks amazing. But I actually popped one of the bearings out and you can just a little bit see the layer lines on the inside there. And he was like, okay, so maybe you did print it. But... oh, these metal fill filaments. It makes a spinner feel so freaking great. And it spins pretty good because it has quite a bit more mass. Like, this is printed at 100% infill. And it's got quite a bit more mass to it than, like, PLA, obviously. Have I replaced my bed coating yet? No, I haven't. I have, I did a video on how I resurfaced it, but I have resurfaced it that one official time, and then the other day I kind of gouged it when I was printing with PETG because it actually adhered like way more than you'd hope a print would adhere, and I ended up having a little bit of like a mark in it. So I did a real quick resurface with 1500 grit sandpaper and acetone it. How do you polish the bronze fill? Again, that was just, I think that was like the last stream we did, maybe the one before that, I forget. But I started with 220 grit sandpaper and then went to 400 and then took a jump to 1500 because it's like, those are the closest like increments I had. But no, you basically just, it takes a little TLC, especially shapes like this. If you see on that stream, this was a pain in the ass to kind of sand because there's no big flat areas to really kind of just work at. It's all curves and crap like that. But if you also see in that stream, I think it was linked in that stream. I think it was Joey Nuggets shared a coin with us that he had done out of bronze fill, and I think something out of copper fill that he had done. And he actually got a little like polishing pack off of Amazon that went from like 1,200 grit to like 18,000 grit, and the results he got with that were pretty amazing. Like if you'd see the coin that he had done, it was like an ancient coin printed out of bronze fill. It was like perfect. It was damn near perfect. Yeah, they were amazing. Does the metal fill ruin nozzles? Yes, they will eventually. But like I personally haven't had any noticeable wear on mine, just like printing periodically with it. Like I only had basically like a little sample. It was probably a roll about this big. Maybe 50 or 60 feet of it. Has anyone printed the Triceratops? I did. I actually have mine sitting over here. We had started to, like, obviously this isn't how it came off the printer, but this is the Triceratops skull that I did, and, like, a long time ago on a stream, we painted it and finished it up a little bit with just, like, a tiny little bit of sanding and a little bit of painting to make it look like bone. But this was just, like, straight off the SD. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely no changes whatsoever. And it came out all right. There's some areas in there where you can see, like, layer lines and stuff, and it kind of makes the paint look a little bit funny, but overall, this more or less looks like bone just chilling on my bench back here. But, yeah, I didn't adjust the speed or anything. And I honestly don't know if it's exactly the same file with the same settings that they're using on the SD card. Because that was probably 6 months ago that they would have shipped that out, so it's hard to tell if that's exactly the same G code. So this blue is definitely not ABS. Like, it's softened a tiny little bit. Same with that clear piece that we set in here. It's really not melting or anything. Just like ever so slightly softened the surface. But yes, we didn't get any ABS. I assumed it was PLA. Just because that's some of the cheapest filament on the market. You can probably safely increase the speed because I think they only recommend 40 millimeters a second, so I would assume that's what they sliced that at. It might be PETG. I hope this isn't PETG because I didn't prep the bed at all. But this appears to be PLA. I don't know if I should let this finish or just stop it. I guess we'll probably just stop it. Take a look at it. Yeah, let's just stop it. We get the idea, baby blue. We get it. But yeah, it just seems like PLA. No big whoop. I mean, it's kind of a cool color. It's like a pale baby blue kind of thing going on. It feels weird. It's got that weird kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely not PETG. That never would have came off like that. But no, just seems like some cheap PLA. Nothing too fancy, nothing too special. So, yeah, so that'll never get used. I mean, there's a chance I might use it for something, but it's probably just going to sit in my bins over there. So let's get this out. We'll preheat for PLA again. And we'll just go ahead and use the same print since we know we don't have any problems with it. And we'll try to unload again. Same deal, it just doesn't want to... It just does not want to come out. Which is a little disheartening. I hate tugging on it like that. So we'll just go ahead and snip it, as much as I hate to. And we'll go the other way with it. Which is a pain in the ass. I need to order that this week. Just going to move the axis. We'll move the extruder axis. We'll just pull that down in a little bit. Get this sample off of here. We'll try this clear out. I don't know what to expect out of this. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't PLA. Because I've printed with several different companies, like natural PLA, just PLA that doesn't have any color pigment in it. And this seems more clear than that. This has a strange, almost like milky, transparent quality to it. So unfortunately, we'll have to extrude all of this freaking blue out of here. That's why I'm glad most of my prints are just printed in like dark gray, so I don't have to change it all the time. You can tell that blue is not a brand of PLA. You know how when you first start printing, you can really smell PLA, and you notice that sweet kind of organic smell. I haven't noticed that in a long time because I guess I'm used to the filaments I'm printing with. And I smell it in this. It is kind of like a pleasing smell. I don't know if you guys like it. But there is like a sort of pleasant quality to it. It almost smells like burning sugar or something. Snip it, he said. Sniff it. We could try it. Actually, I do have little UV LEDs over here. Bam. It's funny. It's kind of cool the printer picks this up. Looks like we're almost transitioned over. And it looks like this is extruding just fine at 205 degrees or whatever this preheats to. But yeah, the cam picks this up, doesn't it? Yeah, this is a little UV LED. This is my little like makeshift. My dad owns a business, and he didn't want to buy like bill validators because you can validate bills with UV light. It doesn't appear to have any glowy quality to it. Let's take a test piece here. We're just going to expose it for a bit. Doesn't appear to glow. I really don't think this is PLA. This almost feels like polycarbonate or something. That is hard as shit. This little circle. This is, I don't know if anybody knows what that could be. This is exceptionally hard now that it's extruded. Like, that's a little circle. Those little spirals. I almost can't crush that. Like, I'm squeezing that almost as hard as I can. That is hard. That is extremely hard. That's what she said. Yeah, that's weird. This is not PLA if I had to guess. Well, I guess this stuff, I don't know. I guess this is pretty hard too. So maybe it is. Maybe it's just natural PLA. I'm kind of nervous though. I think I'm going to put a little bit of a glue stick layer down because if we're going to print that PETG real quick, I'm kind of nervous. I don't want this to like permanently adhere to my PEI sheet. So we'll clean it off and we'll put a thin layer of glue stick down here just in case. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Because of glue sticks. I don't know if you've ever seen anyone talk about it, but sometimes with filaments that adhere too well, putting a layer of glue stick down like this can help you prevent over-adhesion so it doesn't, permanently bond to your PEI sheet and potentially damage it when you try to take the print off. So we're going to kind of play it safe and do that, and then go ahead and print this. I don't know what I did with it, but that little blue spinner frame. We'll go ahead and print this same thing again, just because it's a fairly easy little print. It's not complicated. And if we're going to have any issues with the extrusion, because our temps are like wildly off, this print will definitely show that. And this, if anybody was curious, I always get questions about that. We're actually using a 0.3 millimeter nozzle right now. Is it really ASPE? Is it really just PETG, basically? Like, I know chemically it's like its own unique thing. Because I remember I actually looked up its chemical properties. Someone messaged me and gave me a load of shit about, like in the video I did about resurfacing, I wiped my PEI sheet down with acetone, and some guy just, like, lost his mind over that. And I did look it up. Apparently, if you would, like, submerge your PET in 100% acetone, you could damage it. But I don't... From what I've seen, like, just wiping it down briefly, infrequently, I haven't seen anything. Plus, I think if anyone's ever had... And it's probably a bad example, but I think possibly slightly damaging the surface is actually what improves the adhesion if you find yourself in a position where you're not getting good adhesion anymore. This filament is not extruding very well. I know I kind of moved the cam, but this is not super pretty. I know it's really hard to see. But that's a little bit ugly in there. I'll fix the focus on this. It's a little bit ugly back in there. Again, I apologize. It's hard to get, like, ideal viewing experience. Stuff like this. Does that look like it's about focused right? I know the print's kind of moving back and forth, but we'll give it a minute here, but this might not be PLA. It doesn't... It kind of smells like PLA. I guess it might be. It kind of smells like PLA, actually. Joseph Prusa said the other day, all build tack is felt polycarbonate? What the hell is that? It could be. I actually, I have a coupon for BuildTac. I'm not that interested. I've had like such good experience with PEI that I don't really feel compelled to try stuff, honestly. I mean, if I had like more disposable income, I'd probably get some, but I just really like printing with PEI now that I'm kind of used to it. Felt coated polycarbonate. It's not surprising. Most things like BuildTac, that doesn't really surprise me because most things are really it's Soylent Green. It's not that people are like going out and just inventing like this you know, genuinely novel stuff. It's usually that they're using something that exists in a novel way, which I think is what BuildTac is. Where is the best place to pick up samples of the filled filament? You mean like the bronze fill? If that's what you mean, I think most of the filled filaments I've used are from Protopasta. I don't think the bronze fill is. The bronze fill that I used is from Color Fab. I don't know if they sell samples. I know Protopasta does. This, I know it's not very helpful for you now because the month that came in is already passed, but all of these sample packs that I have came from MakerBox. They actually emailed me the other day and asked me, like, they sent me a direct email and asked me, like, how I feel about it, which I don't know if they're kind of like, they kind of want me to do a review because I've been kind of wanting to do a review anyway. Because I've kind of plugged them several times. Like, I really like the MakerBox. The price has slowly been creeping up, which I dislike a little bit, but even considering that, I think, I mean, don't hold me to it exactly, but I think it's approximately $18 a month now, and I think you can get 3 or 4 samples at different price points, but I get the 4 sample one, and oh, it's marked on here. Like, the bronze fill sample that I got came in the February box. And I don't have my scale here for some reason. I've been moving stuff, so I get disoriented. Because there's been a month or two where, you know, it wasn't super exciting. You know, where it was basically like a couple different types of PLA and then one semi-exotic filament. But, like, I've already printed not a ton of stuff. I printed this and a couple other little sample pieces out of this this bronze fill. I had the wrong freaking camera up the whole time I was talking. MakerBox. I don't know if you saw me in the corner. MakerBox. It's a monthly subscription box, kind of like Loot Crate for nerds. Well, I mean, Loot Crate is for nerds, but it's like Loot Crate for 3D printing nerds. But, like, the bronze fill that I used, I got in the February box. And, like, I just waited here. There's 124 grams of this left. And I already printed probably 10 or 15 grams, I would imagine. Somewhere in that ballpark. But personally, I love it because, like I said, there's been a couple months where it's, you know, basically a few not super exciting filaments. But then there's been, you know, the other 5 months that I've been a subscriber to it, that there's been some really cool filaments in there. Like this bronze fill. I don't know what a sample of this costs, but it's not cheap. Bronze fill isn't cheap. The graphite filament that I tested, the conductive filament I got from my MakerBox. I mean, I don't know if you can see over here, but I've just got like bins and bins and bins of these. Because I just love having access to things. Like the Biome 3D filament I messed with, I got from them. The matte fiber PLA from Protopost I got from them. I've got some wood fill here from the March box that I'm looking forward to trying. There's some PTCG. There's some polycarbonate that I did some of the tests with the lock picks and stuff that I was messing with. Because to me, it's tough to buy samples. I mean, some companies don't even sell samples, so you're kind of like obligated to buy, you know, big ass kind of expensive rolls just to test something, which kind of sucks. So for me, it's like giving me the opportunity to try a bunch of things that I couldn't really justify buying full rolls of. And like I said, some companies are okay. Like Protopost is pretty good. They sell samples of almost all their filaments, relatively inexpensively. But there's other companies where you might want to give their filament a try, and they don't really offer samples of it. And some of them, even though they don't sell samples, if you contact them, they'll kind of hook you up. But you want to print some Groots? Was this upgrade? The question was this upgrade for fun or fixing a real problem? Both, definitely for both. Like I talked about at the beginning of the stream, and we'll go ahead and stop this print. Now that winter has passed, there's that. That might have been PLA. I don't know. It could have just been that my Z height was a little bit off for that filament. Because you do get some that vary occasionally. Because that started to clean up. That looks reasonable, I think, as far as print quality. And that was at 200 degrees, I think. But like I was saying, I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted. During the winter, my basement isn't heated, so I have had some problems with the heat bed not being able to maintain temp. So in that sense, like when winter comes around again, because I'm kind of fighting building an enclosure, it will help me out. Oh, I don't know. That might not be PLA. That bonded, even with the glue stick, that bonded really well. I don't know how we could figure out what that was, but I don't think that was PLA. I have a sneaking suspicion. And we do. That is like kind of the disappointing part. It's like we have literally no way of finding out what this is. It doesn't really smell like PLA either. I think it was just like the lingering odor of that last print. Because this stuff smells like PLA. But I don't know. It seems to print okay. I know one way we can test it. So like the blue, like to me, that's pretty obviously PLA. It's kind of brittle. It wants to kind of crack. It snaps fairly easy. This stuff isn't particularly strong, actually. So this might have been PLA. I don't know. It probably was. Probably just was, like, unpigmented PLA. Womp. Alright, so on to the PTs, or PETG. Watch this be PLA too. We're just lying. Yeah, Nuggy, you're right, but I don't fortunately I don't have any water down here. Did the blue glow under the light? I don't think so. I guess I didn't try it, but do they even make blue glow in the dark? It looks cool with the purple light and the blue filament. Gives you a really bright color, but no, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Nope. So with the PETG, we're just going to go ahead and kind of smooth this glue layer over with a little bit more glue, because why not? We're not really overly concerned with the quality of the bottom layer. And we'll go ahead and put this PETG on here. I guess it would be nice if this does print okay. Because there's I don't know, there's a reasonable amount of this here. So I probably could find something to use it for if it prints okay. Yes, you can do blue glow in the dark. Yeah, you're right, Aspie. Because different brands, like, it kind of surprises me that natural PLA hasn't been the same from all the brands I've tried. Because I have Protopasta. They call it like everyday PLA. That's their natural. And it's this like, it almost looks frosted. Like it doesn't have that optically clear kind of transparent look. Like it's kind of semi-opaque. And then I also have this is AIO's natural PLA, and it's a lot more like actually transparent. Like if you compare the two, you can kind of see like how different they look. And they're both just like unpigmented natural PLA. I don't know why they have such a different like appearance and texture. Because like the Protopastas has like a almost like a, I don't know, like a matte finish, and it's kind of has a little bit of texture to it. And then this stuff is really smooth and is like that kind of ever so slightly milky off, kind of not white. It's kind of like, I don't know, slightly yellowish like you were saying. So yeah, it's hard to tell what it is. All right, anyway. We're going to try to... Oh, I got to preheat, damn it. How do they look after printing? I think I have some stuff I printed with them. It's funny, they kind of flip-flop because they look the opposite of each other once they're printed. I know they actually end up looking about the same under the camera, I'd imagine. This is the one that looks kind of satiny. This is like a little test block. And this stuff does print nice. You see it handles like, even a small scale, it handles bridging really nicely. All the details like super clean. All the little shape tests and stuff. Like the dimensional accuracy area and stuff. All the shapes are nice and smooth. Prints nice. And then this is the AIO PLA. And I don't know. This stuff prints really nice. I really love the AIO unpigmented. Because it's one of these sewer pieces like this green one. Just in clear. But you can see like the finish on that and like the print quality is really great with this. It prints really nice. And for pieces like these that are all going to be painted, the color doesn't matter. And to me, like, my reasoning with getting the natural PLA was that the additives that they use for color are obviously different. They're going to have different chemical properties from filament to filament. And I just wanted something that wasn't going to be potentially introducing any, like, inconsistencies into the prints or anything I had to like consider if I change colors. And like I said, all that stuff's going to be like primed and sanded and painted and stuff. So ultimately the plastic color is completely irrelevant. And it's worked out really, really well for me. So we'll kind of have to take that off. Get this on. Bastard. But you see, even these like chaotic pain in the ass rolls like this, this little kind of ghetto spool works out kind of nicely. I guess I can try to unload this, even though I'm pretty sure it's gonna not work out. Oh, it did. But you can see, I think I've showed this on stream before. The reason I think the PTFE liner is messed up is you can see on this, like, that instead of that being centered, it's like offset really bad, and it's like hooking. It's like smooth on one side, and then it's got like a hook on the other. And I think my PTFE liner is kind of like offset, and it's why it's catching and not wanting to eject the filament. Not wanting to eject the filament. So we'll preheat to PET, and we'll print the same file again, but we'll just have to go in and bump the temp up to what, like 2. Of course, this doesn't say anything other than it's PETG. But we'll bump the temp up to 240. That's like right in the sweet spot for PETG in general. Yeah, the AIO, like I do like that filament. They need to sponsor me. Oh shit. What's going on here? Well, that load cycle completely failed. We'll have to manually feed that down in a bit. But yeah, I like the AIO. I think the thing I like most about them is how like bright and opaque their colors are. Like, I know I've gotten them out a million times, but like, these are the 3 colors that I print with the most. Like, they're green, they're purple, and they're orange. And they're all just like really great looking, bright, opaque colors that look good on a lot of prints. And then, I mean, the vast majority of the printing I do, because then everything else where the color's not relevant, I print in their, this is just their gray, even though it's like a dark gray. I print in their gray or like the natural, the unpigmented. And some people don't like these, this is a 500 gram roll. Some people don't like these smaller rolls, but I've really grown to like them over the big 2.2 pound rolls, because they're just easier to handle. When I was mounting them on top of the machine, it's just like less weight that's up there swinging around. And they're fairly inexpensive. I think it's only about $12 for one of these 500 gram rolls, and I get them off of Amazon, so they come here in 2 days with Prime. So, I can dig it. All right, and then we're just going to manually feed this through a little bit. Since it didn't grab the hobbed gear initially, so it didn't pull it down in far enough. Did any conductive filament project ideas come in? No, like literally 0, which I'm kind of disappointed about. And I haven't really had much time to sit and think of any. Though I do want to do that. I don't want that project to like fall by the wayside, because I think I think there's a lot of fun for people to have. I was trying to think of like some little board ideas where we could integrate like common components that would allow people to like interchange things relatively easily. But no, nobody's really been too forthcoming with any brilliant ideas. You need to get on it, guys. All right, so we're going to print this thing. Oh, I never took the old purge strips off. The winding on this roll, This roll is terrible. Yeah. Oh my god. I agree. OMG. It's abysmal. If your roll looks like this, don't start a 6-hour print. You're gonna have a bad time. Yeah, I would not recommend doing anything large or unattended with your roll looking like this. It's terrible. I'm kind of excited since I've been printing with I keep smacking the shit out of this table. Since I've been printing with brightly colored filaments, I've been saving all the scraps. Like I'll throw this blue in there and I guess this clear too. Because I want to do one of those melting projects that I've seen people do. You take a bunch of filament on a cookie sheet and melt it into like big sheets of PLA, and then do some projects with that stuff. That seems cool. Marcus, screw you, Marcus. Buzzkill. So we're gonna bump our nozzle up. This might not print too. Actually, seems to be printing fine even at 205, but we'll bump it up to 240. Yeah, that actually, I know it's marked PETG, but that seemed to be printing rather nicely at even 205. I guess we better bump our bed temp too. But it's a little messy there at the start, but seems to be printing all right. The spinners, like, being that these are the ones I have are printed out of PLA, like, I am a little bit nervous about them. I'm kind of worried about dropping them. Like, I'm hoping they won't break, especially this bronze fill one. Because these metal fill filaments can be a little bit... they crack easy because they have, like, a powder in them. And that powder, like, even though whatever... like the PLA or whatever, like obviously that's going to bond to each other internally, but that powder is never really going to melt and kind of like have interparticle bonds that are really strong. And it kind of worries me about dropping these, but these are a lot of fun. I finally did get into Fusion 360. Yeah, it's gonna take me a little while how to use that. I'm not used to that. There's not a whole lot of overlap between that and the CAD programs I've used in the past, so I was doing like something simple. I was trying to lay out the spinner that I want to do because I have a cool idea for a spinner that I think is a novel design. I've never seen someone do it quite like that. Because I kind of like the really simple ones where you just have like the central bearing and then basically a really short bar, because they're smaller. Like I like this one. This one's fun to play with, but it's kind of big to walk around and have it in your pocket. So I've been trying to I'd like to design a smaller one that has like plenty of mass to it, but isn't quite so large dimensionally. But yeah, it's going to take some time to get used to Fusion 360. Seems like a nice program, and I do like the whole concept of parametric design is fantastic. I love that. But yeah, none of the CAD that I've ever used before was like that. We have a thermal runaway. I'll tell you why. This is the error we were trying to imitate earlier. So, if you can see, the screen says thermal runaway. You can kind of see that. Wow, thermal runaway, error, and it immediately stops the print. You see it turned the temps to 0, and it goes into like a cooldown phase. If this ever happens to you, the only thing you can do is reset the printer. You just have to power it off and power it back on. What causes that or what just caused that, is... I guess we don't need that on there. Why that happened. This print was sliced for PLA. And as you can see, the part cooling fan is going at 100%. Get the camera out of the way there. Part cooling fan was at 100%. And it's exactly what I was talking about earlier, where what that causes to happen is our heat bed is attempting to stay at a fairly high temperature, but the part cooling fan is blowing significant amounts of the relatively low ambient temperature air across the build plate, and it just can't keep up. Like, the heating element just cannot keep up. So this is definitely PETG. This is what PETG's done every time I print with it. And the reason it did that was this was sliced for PLA, and our cooling fan was set to be at 100% speed. So, yay, we got to get the error we were talking about. You could edit the firmware to make the thermal runaway detection a bit less aggressive. I think that would be something worth doing. Hey, Gusner, thanks for stopping by, man. Oh, Zadim, that would be fantastic. Because anybody that doesn't know, we were talking about the conductive filament. I did a stream the other day where I was messing around with the... it's a metal fill filament like the bronze fill, except it has like graphite in it. Which I don't think that's a metal, actually. But it's a filament that will conduct electricity, which even the metal fill filaments won't do. Like, we tested this bronze and it doesn't conduct. What we were talking about doing was I would like to try to get several relatively simple prints. Like, this is the print that I had done the other day. This is just, it's like a green PLA. It's that PLA I was showing you a minute ago. Green PLA with a couple, like, really basic circuits on it with some LEDs and a potentiometer and a couple odds and ends out of that conductive filament. And you basically just, like, use some gator clips, hook your power supply up, and you can illuminate some LEDs. You know, whoop-de-doo. But what I think would be cool is to get a few little project prints together that people could print with this filament and upload it as like a package to Thingiverse, so somebody would have, you know, a few little prints that they could mess around with if they end up getting some of this conductive filament, because there really aren't many projects that utilize this stuff yet. I've seen some people that have used it in their own projects and then, like, not shared it, and there's a couple people that have made like little button cell LED lights with it and stuff, but beyond that, there didn't really seem to be much that I could find. So if anybody, that's what I was asking about, and that's what Zadim there was talking about, was if anybody has any ideas for any little simple circuits that people could print out of this, send me a message, because I'd like to get a couple that are practical, they're relatively simple to do, that people could get as like a little package, a little set of prints or something to mess around with that we could put up on Thingiverse and kind of contribute it to the community, which I think would be cool. You have a strong halogen lamp above the thing. Yeah, it's not like, I get what you're saying. Via poo, is that? I guess that's how that goes. It's not really overriding like a safety feature. I mean, it is a safety feature, and it would keep. I guess it keeps the printer from bursting into flames if you'd have a short or something weird. But yeah, it's just a little frustrating for something like that, because that's not going to cause any problems. It's not going to use any more electricity or be any more at risk for bursting into flames than it is when it's heating the heat bed up initially, because it's just at 100% power. But I don't know, it's something you could do. Hey, MacVision. Well, today we, if you can see, we put some cork under our build plate to insulate it, which was a success. I think we cut, someone said 20%. We cut our ambient temp to 100°C on the heat bed time by 20%. I think it took us like just over 11 minutes without it being corked, if you want to say it that way. And it took just over 9 minutes with it being corked. And then it seems like the temp's a lot more stable with it. And then, like, I forget who suggested that. Might have been Gusner. Ideally, you'd go back then and redo your PID tuning for the heat bed, and I think it would be even more stable. But yeah, what we were doing right now is I had entered a giveaway on Facebook for some filament, and like several months later, they finally, like, some showed up in my my PO box, and it was all unlabeled. Like, we still don't know what these are. I had this clear and this blue that I think were PLAs. We've already printed with them, and they seem to print okay at PLA temps. And then this was PETG. And like I said, this was like 100% confirmation to me that this is PETG. And I know it was labeled. This has happened to me every time I've printed with PETG. The initial layer bonds exceptionally well, and then the subsequent layers don't so well. And obviously we need to dial our temps in, would fix some of this, but yeah, this has been my experience with PETG, so I definitely believe that was correctly marked. And then if you weren't here for it, we just had a thermal runaway error, because this was actually sliced for PLA, and then after it started, I just went in and bumped the temps up for PETG. But I forgot the fan. The part cooling fan was still on 100%, so it gave us a thermal runaway. Which does kind of demonstrate that even though we did insulate the bed, it's still not enough to overcome that problem of the part cooling fan just cooling the bed down at a rate faster than the machine can keep up. So, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it would have been kind of cool if it insulated it well enough to prevent that from happening. Bob asked, I have AutoCAD. I used to use AutoCAD, but it's been years. And I'm definitely jealous that it's pizza time, man. And also, I don't know if anybody saw that comment. What did he say exactly? Where was it? Idea for conductive filament. Bin it and use copper wire. How thick is the cork? It's 5 millimeters. Yeah, duplicate. You're like totally right. PETG does not need. I mean, a lot of PETG doesn't need any fan. It can improve your print quality if you run some, but changing the angle might help a little bit, but you're still gonna have the problem where it's like if your print's in the center, it's gonna be blowing a relatively high amount of air across the bulk of the heat bed surface. So it's just gonna like be fighting the machine, and there's no real reason to do that. Because even if you have a print that, would benefit from some cooling, like say you have some, I don't know, some really fine detail or something in a PETG print, you're better off just like getting your fan settings right. Like you could easily just like bring your fan down to 20 or 30% speed, and you won't have any issues. I had tuned the bed before the cork, but I have not tuned it since. And it seemed like, I know we didn't do any extensive testing, but it seemed that the temp was staying pretty consistent. We can set it to let's set it to 60 here, since it won't take very long to get to 60. And that freaking light reflecting. That's why I want to get soft boxes. Like this right here, with those lights being small, you can see that reflection there because my light's over to the side. Having some actual soft boxes would help with that. Because it does drive me crazy sometimes. But no, you can't. You like I get like it's not a bad idea to try to direct the airflow, but it's just inevitable, especially like lower on a print. Like as you get higher, like say you're up 2 inches into the print, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. You could probably have your fan at 100%, and it wouldn't be hitting the bed enough to matter. But the problem with a lot of filaments that require a high bed temp, you want to maintain a relatively consistent temp. Like ABS is like the stereotypical example of that. You want the entire print to stay as close to the same temp at a relatively high temp as possible, because otherwise you'll have like warping issues or layer adhesion problems between individual layers. Like if you've ever seen people do big ABS prints when they're first starting, they'll tend to get those splits at various places where you can tell like the print started to cool and the layers kind of flex at different rates and it pulls layers apart. Can dual extruders be installed on any printer? Yes. With a little bit of work, like if you'd want to spend the time, or if someone else has spent the time and you can find, if you have access to like the parts and stuff that they used, yeah, you can absolutely put dual extruders on basically anything, because the firmware supports it. So yeah, with a little bit of work, depending on how much work someone else has already done, you can do that on basically any printer. Are you considering the quad extruder? Yeah, I'd like to. My problem right now is like money. I can't really afford it at the moment. Cause I put my order in for the Mk2S kit, so I do have that coming. But the multi-extrusion kind of setup, like I just haven't managed to get the I think it's like 2 something. I want to say like 260 with shipping. But yeah, no, I'd like to. I'm interested to see the results. I have a feeling that it's going to be what I expected like months ago when we were kind of speculating about it on stream. It's probably going to work well, but it's going to slow your print times down dramatically. And you can see, I know this is a little out of focus because we brought the gain back up, but the bed temps seem to be pretty fantastic in general. Like that seems to be just absolutely pegged at 60, and it doesn't seem to require a whole lot of power input, which is kind of nice. So, like, obviously you could redo your PID tuning, but it doesn't really seem like I need to. Because if it was way off, like the temp would be dropping below 60 frequently or going above 60 frequently, and it seems to be pretty solid. So, like I said, it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and retune it, but it seems like this tuning is pretty spot on for this at the moment. Dual extruder with the mini Rambo is an issue, missing one stepper. Well, yeah, I guess you could have limitations like that, but yeah, I like it. I think it looks like kind of classy. But yeah, because yeah, Prusa's setup actually isn't like a quad extruder. It's still a single extruder with like a 4 Bowden kind of, or yeah, quad Bowden kind of setup. For the Cork mod, was it simply putting the cork under the bed? I mean, more or less. The only really consideration we had to make was for there's some metal risers, like motherboard risers in a regular ATX motherboard computer. There's 4 of those that you have to cut holes in the cork for. We did Dremel out a little trough for the leads. There's a wire lead that comes into the middle of the heat bed that you kind of need to account for because there's just not enough space to smush it. Like I know some of you guys said that I could probably just smush it, but I'm kind of worried about doing that because you don't want to put too much pressure on these outer bolts because if you strip them, you're going to have a bad time, like we discussed. And then, like I can go ahead and show you. I have, you can see them there. I have printed bearing holders instead of zip ties. Like I know the S's are coming with like metal U-bolts now, but I've printed these. These are off Aaron York's Tinkercad page because they fit quite nicely. But these are PLA linear bearing holders, and I do have the original linear bearings in here. Because of the way they're installed, they have bolts that go down through the aluminum plate and screw into the plastic. There's some bolt heads there that I also had to relieve into the cork a little bit, but it's all in the stream. That's what we did at the beginning of the stream. It's nothing too complicated. Yeah, Robert, it's kind of there's a lot of like pros and cons to all the different setups. Dual, I'm not really a fan of like multiple actual extruders, like multiple hot ends. It seems to be a big issue to keep them calibrated properly, and you have two completely independent systems that you need to maintain and stuff. The kind of multiplexing, I guess that's what they're calling that now, where you have basically a couple Bodens feeding a single extruder seems like a pretty good way to go. You're waiting for the quick change extruder. I'm anxious to see it, honestly. Yeah, it seems like a cool idea. Because I'm in complete agreement. I hate changing. I'm getting more comfortable with it because I've done it so many times. Like I've changed the nozzle dozens and dozens of times now. But every time I change the nozzle on these E3D hot ends, I cringe a little bit. Like I'm just always afraid because you have the freaking these blue leads running into the side that I'm always afraid of like breaking because I'd like to bend them out a little bit to give me a little more clearance to get a hold of the actual heat block. But I'm like terrified of breaking them. And yeah, I just it's a little frustrating every single time I change the nozzle. Waiting for a system that adds pigment to the hot end. It's hard to tell where things will be. It's literally impossible to speculate about where 3D printing will be in like 5 years. Sailfish firmware has a feature called Ditto simultaneous head printing. Man, that would be tough to get to work right though. I'd like to see simultaneous print head printing, but yeah. That seems like an undertaking to get that system to work right. Dawn's $0 on your Patreon page. Yeah, man, it's like you got to have low expectations. I mean, honestly, you never know what's going to happen. It's like YouTube and the internet and stuff. It's a total crapshoot. Whether people feel the need to support you or not, or into you. Like I kind of got lucky. I was not expecting to be. Like, if you'd have talked to me 6 months ago, I wouldn't expect to be sitting here streaming on YouTube talking to a bunch of people. But you just got to be willing to put the time in. Like, I had planned, when I started, I planned on going for a year. I was like, man, if I go for a year and essentially nothing comes out of this, I'll just kind of, like, admit defeat and move on with my life. But, no, luckily, I've been fairly successful. Jatman was saying he thought 3D was dead. Jatman did, or did he say someone else was thinking that? Because that's crazy talk. Was he? If he did say that, was he like on something at the time? Was this like a drunk stream? I mean, I guess it depends on what he meant by that. Like, maybe he meant that the technology, the specific technology. Yeah, I don't know. Like Brian said, like I don't know. I can't picture him saying that. mean, I could be wrong. I don't know the guy that all that well. But yeah, that seems like crazy talk. I was gonna say maybe he was meaning that like the exact particular technology we're using right now is going to like we're gonna move on from. Uh, but yeah, 3D printing is not going anywhere, not anytime soon. Because of the list. I don't know. I'll have to see that and get some context. So what are you saying, Brian? He was saying that he was mocking someone because the list of YouTubers is growing. I don't know. Like I'm all for the community growing. I think it's bad. I love all the big 3D printing YouTubers, but I've seen it with a lot of different communities I've been a part of. There's a lot of communities right now that I won't bring up that I'm a part of that is happening to currently. But anytime a community starts congregating around a very small number of people, it's usually bad for the community. Even if those people like at the time seem great, it generally causes stagnation and fanboyism and a bunch of bad things. And I'm not saying that like anybody in the 3D printing community is causing that now, but in my experience, it's inevitable. Like even if it's not happening right now, it probably will happen eventually, and it usually ends up causing like tension and stuff. So the more the community is spread amongst like different people and interests and stuff, usually the better it is. It seems to make it less likely that that kind of thing happens. So, oh, I got you, Brian. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense saying it like that. So he's just being sarcastic, which I'm a fan of. Yeah. Yeah, like clearly the 70 some of you sitting here hanging out in this stream, you're just here to watch it die, right? You're just here to see the final death throes of 3D printing. Uh Dawn Jensen. Yeah, I've actually been doing like I don't know what time zone you're in or country for that matter, but I've been doing streams at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard for a while now. And I stream Tuesday and Thursday like every week. I've been shockingly consistent. Uh, but Central Time. Yeah, I mean, most of the streams end up going. I don't know what time it is. Probably what 1 o'clock. I usually end up streaming for 3 to 4 hours. Like that's become the norm. That's like a short stream. Uh, but yeah, I've said it, but I've really gotten no feedback. Like I said, I'm open to moving one of the streams to a different time if it works out better for people. Because I know I've had people like criticize me for streaming at the time I do. Like, why the hell do you stream at 10 a.m.? Nobody's on the internet. But I don't know. I've just like kind of carved out a niche at 10 a.m. for whatever reason. Pizza's coming. Well, to me, because that would be great. I'm freaking hungry. All I've had to eat today is coffee. So I've got that weird like jittery manic feeling. He does it for the Brits, I guess. Like, what time is it there, Aspie? I honestly don't know. There's no particular reason. It just kind of happened. Like, I have to stream earlier than later is better because I have to pick my daughter up at 4 o'clock, and my streams always end up going like forever. So I can't start streaming at like 2 p.m. Eastern because I only have 2 hours, and that's obviously not enough time. And then I can't stream super early because I can't get my ass out of bed because I'm always up super late. So I always get up at like 5:30 to 6 o'clock to get my daughter tended to and keep her out of my wife's hair while she gets ready for work, and then dick around the house for a while before I know it's 10 o'clock. Consider setting up a treat stream. I know I've watched quite a few guys on Twitch that use it. All I have at the moment, like, we do have Super Chat. That, Oh, Marcus, I'm sorry. I didn't even notice you did a Super Chat. I feel like an asshole now. I was going to say nobody ever uses Super Chat, and then I scrolled down and Marcus sent me a pound earlier, like at 3 hours ago. I'm sorry, Marcus, if you're here. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to miss that. But yeah, I have Patreon and stuff, but yeah, I've never really looked at TreatStream. It's the same for me, Robert. Like, I have friends. I have a couple friends in particular who are really into 3D printing like 3 to 5 years ago, and I don't think they've really followed it that much. They're not really aware of like how much things have changed in the last few years. Twitch has, well, yeah, Twitch has subscribed. Like, I think we're on Twitch right now, but I don't think it's a slow burn on Twitch if you do creative stuff. Hello to guys on Twitch if there's anybody there right now. I'm sorry if we've been ignoring you. But Twitch is kind of like they've sort of embraced. Yeah, there's a couple guys in Twitch. Hey, what's up, guys in Twitch? See, we care. It took 3 hours, but we're acknowledging that you exist. But I don't think anybody's said anything in chat, or they haven't recently anyway. Hey, guys in Twitch. This is actually live. Like, I've had people, like, think I'm not live. Like, I remember the other day a guy wanted me to pour alcohol in my head to prove that this was live. I was like, you could just have me say something. It doesn't have to be, like, that ridiculous. But yeah, no, like, I've been trying, because this is streamed on YouTube and Twitch at the same time, and I've been trying to, like, grow a little bit of community. I know my title on Twitch is wrong, but shut up. But yeah. It's funny how people are. When I first started streaming on YouTube, people were like, why the hell are you streaming on YouTube? You need to go stream on Twitch. Get this shit off YouTube. And then, since I started streaming on Twitch, like, I've had guys in Twitch say, like, hey, this isn't gaming. F off. Yeah, like, my personal preference, I like streaming on YouTube so much better. Twitch is great if you're partnered, but it's hard to get partnered. It's kind of erratic. Like, there's no, like, there's no set in stone, like, thing you have to do to get partnered. It's just kind of like if you get noticed and keep certain numbers consistently, you can get partnered. Like, I'm so far from getting partnered, it's not even funny. But on YouTube, you basically have, like, unrestrained access to the platform. There's no bandwidth limits. There's no, like, crazy hoops you have to jump through. You can just, like, stream and upload basically any bitrate you want, and the server handles it well, and people can change their quality settings, and it's no big deal. But yeah, like Robert said, the problem with Twitch, like, I used to do gaming on Twitch a little bit, and the problem is, like, if you're not partnered, people can only view your stream at the bitrate that you upload at. So, like, some of you guys are in Australia or in the UK or something, or if you just don't have that great of an internet connection, and if I want to upload at a decent rate so the video looks good, you guys are going to have a terrible experience because you're not going to be able to, like, keep up, and you're going to be buffering all the time. And then at the same time, like, if you have people that you're trying to cater to that don't have good connections, and you're, like, uploading at a low bit rate, then everybody else is going to complain because your video looks like shit. And it's just, like, this impossible balance to strike on Twitch, and it just, like, always drove me crazy. What's up, fishing rod? See, Twitch is alive. Did that show up in chat? Yeah, it did. See, we got Twitch chat here. It lives. You think Australia and UK have better internet? It depends on where you are in the States. Like, I have friends that live in the cities, and they have fiber, and it's, like, great. But I live in the boonies, and we have cable, and it's, like, random. Sometimes it's pretty good. Sometimes it's pretty terrible. I think our town is finally installing, like, a fiber infrastructure, so I might have access to fiber here sometime in the future. But it's hard to tell, and it's hard to tell what the cost is going to be. I don't know. I'm not that big fan of beer, but America's got some pretty decent beer. Our beer doesn't suck. Like 5 or 10 years ago, I would have agreed that the beer scene in the U.S. sucks, but it's better. It's gotten a lot better. Yeah, internet's cheap. Shut up. I don't need to hear that, Zapal. I don't want to hear about your cheap, awesome internet. Because we definitely do not have that in the States. Yeah, that's true. You can still get throttled during peak times. It still happens with cable. It's why like the cable in our area is like erratic. 155. Yeah, uploading's what sucks. I used to do a podcast. I almost never talk about it on here because I know nobody would care. But we used to do a video podcast, and it's actually how I got into like doing YouTube, and it's the reason I have a lot of the equipment, and the mics, and all the mixer and stuff I have. Because we had like a little pet project with a couple friends and I owned all the equipment and did everything. Uh, but we used to record our videos and then like edit them, and uploading, like on average we would go for 1 to 2 hours video, 1080p, 30 frames a second. The file sizes would be 8 to 15 gigs depending on exactly how long it was. They were the worst to upload. It would take 4 to 6 hours, or 3 to 6, to upload those, and I was doing it like at least once a week, sometimes twice a week depending on what we were doing. And it was the absolute worst because my other computer would my shitty computer would time out on those long downloads. So you'd get like most of the way through and something would go wrong. And I hated to have like my decent computer that I try to do gaming and stuff on like tied up for hours at a time. It's terrible. Are you up for starting a D&D YouTuber live stream game? That would be sweet. My dream, we're getting way off in the boonies now. Well, this is related to 3D printing. My dream was to DM, like run a D&D game, like myself, like I would be the DM, and we would stream it, and we could play obviously with people that aren't here. And the cool thing about it would be that we could use like 3D printed terrain. Like I have the Rampage system. There's all kinds of different things you could use. Use 3D printed terrain, and then like, since I would have it and it's real terrain and it's 3D and I have all my webcams and stuff, like you could do all kinds of cool shit. Like, right? Like say we're playing our game and we've got our terrain and stuff. And I know the lighting's going to be bad here, but bear with me. You could do like all this like basically first person cam work. You know what I mean? Like when you guys were doing stuff, like you could have the camera in here and you could have like your minis, and like it could be all like first person basically. And like you guys would only be able to see what you can actually see and stuff, and it would be, to me that would be super cool. That'd be pretty unique because I've seen people like stream D&D, but like in general, like you could get super first person-y with it. Get down here. Get down there, camera. Come on. Let's do cool stuff. You know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, you open the gate and brr, there's a guy. Bam. You know what I mean? You could do like some really cool cinematic stuff. Like you could plan the adventures and have like your shots all planned out and stuff. You could have lighting. Where's it at? I got it. Let me get it. I got one of these together. That's not right. Like you could have all your LED lighting and stuff. I don't know. Be like, oh, it's spooky in here and there's a light in the background and whatever. You know what I mean? You can do all kinds of sweet stuff. But anyway, I think you guys get the idea. I'll quit like super nerding out. But that, yeah, like music, you can do all kinds of stuff that you can't really do. I mean, you can do it like in person and stuff, but it would just be like a unique experience, I think, to have the DM have like access to techniques and stuff like that. That would be super cool. Yeah, I'm a total nerd if you can't tell. There's certain things that definitely get my juices flowing. Yeah, the perv's eye view. Definitely. All right, moving on. But no, I would be into that if you could find a group of people. I don't know how much because I actually wanted to do this for a system that I've been working on. If you've ever heard of like BRP, basic role playing, I have a modified version of that I kind of completely reworked to fit the Elder Scrolls universe. Like I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan, and like it would be cool to do a game of that. Because I think the coolest thing about it is that most people, it's not like D&D where people are like really used to the world and they know what to expect. Like they're like, oh, an orc. Yeah. Or like, oh, beholder, those are cool. I know how to kill that. To me, the cool thing about like the Elder Scrolls universe is that even people that have played the games, like a lot of people just aren't familiar with that universe like they are with like the D&D universe. And like I am. So like as the DM, it would allow me to put like the players in all kinds of situations that they don't really know how to deal with in the sort of like absolute way that like people do in D&D. He took an arrow to the knee. Hey, I'm just going to go with 1966. Hey, what's up, 1966? Have I thought about adding Octoprint to your MK2? Yeah, like a whole bunch. Yeah, like a lot. I still like, I don't really mind the SD cards that much. Like, I know I'm kind of the minority when it comes to that. Like, I know a lot of people prefer to print like tethered or like wirelessly and stuff. But no, I've definitely considered it, Scott. Like, money is one of the limiting factors. Like, I haven't modded a console and sold it in quite a while. I need to get back into that. I need to do that more regularly. Yeah, being at a PyCam is sweet. What do I think of the Morrowind expansion for the Elder Scrolls? I'm assuming you mean online. It looks cool. It looks cool. Like I've never been a big fan of the Elder Scrolls Online. Like I don't mind it as an MMO, but it's like a terrible Elder Scrolls game in my opinion. And I know, again, there's a lot of people that will vehemently disagree with me, but to me, like as a fan of the actual universe, it's always been kind of like a piss poor Elder Scrolls game. Again, you want to get people upset? I'm about to drop something controversial. Skyrim is a piss poor Elder Scrolls game, I think. It's not a role-playing game. It's not. It's like a fantasy adventure action game. And again, I know there's a lot of people disagree with me, but I love Skyrim, but like as like an Elder Scrolls open world RPG, I think it's terrible. I mean, terrible might be strong language, but yeah, it's not my favorite. I think there were a lot better installments in the Elder Scrolls series than like Skyrim. Even Oblivion. I think like obviously there's like technical limitations with Daggerfall, but I'm a huge Daggerfall fanboy, and to me like the pinnacle of the Elder Scrolls series was Morrowind. Morrowind is freaking amazing. That is like one of the best open world RPG experiences ever. I love it. Not everything you do, but lots of stuff you do matters. It changes the world. Decisions have gravity beyond just locking you out of different quest lines. But yeah, I agree completely, Scott. Like I love Skyrim. I've played a ton of Skyrim. But like as far as like a game where I feel like I'm part of the universe and the things that I do matter in that universe, it's not the best. It's not linear for the most part, but You played Morrowind after playing Oblivion. Yeah, that can flavor your opinion of it a little bit, but I still think like there's one of my favorite YouTubers is Zarek Zahakaron, who is like, I don't know if he's ever heard me say this. Surely he's had people say this to him. Anybody that's watched The Office, he is Dwight Schrute in real life, who's a Elder Scrolls fanboy. Like, take Beats and Battlestar and replace it with Elder Scrolls, and he's Dwight Schrute in real life. And I love watching him. Like, he's like one of the biggest Elder Scrolls nerds I've ever seen, and it's glorious. But he has a really great video about like modding Morrowind in like a relatively simple way to make it playable for people who didn't or don't like old games, because a lot of people don't like the combat system and stuff. But no, Morrowind with a few mods, it looks great. It's obviously not like totally modern standards, like as far as like graphic fidelity and stuff, but I think it looks great. And the gameplay and overall like role-playing experience is fantastic. But I still love Skyrim, still love Oblivion. It's all good. And Elder Scrolls Online, I didn't mind it as like an MMO. PvP is really, really poorly balanced, but I still had fun with it when I played it. But no, we'll have to talk about it sometime, about getting a role-playing group together. I think that would be fun. I think 80% of my audience would basically give no shits about it, but I think there's a lot of people that would enjoy that. And there's probably like a whole other like subset of role players that would kind of be interested in like the 3D printing element of it. That would probably dig that too. But no, I'll have to talk about it. I was hoping to have a group, because I did finish the system more or less, because I love the combat system. It's so brutal. I love it. Because BRP was already... Because I don't know if any of you guys in the UK like know of basic role-playing. Because unless I'm mistaken, it came out at about the same time or just before or just after first edition D&D. Because my understanding is like it's one of the predominant systems in the UK, while like D&D is like the dominant tabletop system here. But I always liked BRP. And I just like modified some of the systems and stuff for combat and made it fit the Elder Scrolls universe. And it seems like a lot of fun. But we'll have to talk about it sometime. Because it probably wouldn't be till later this year that I'd have enough terrain and stuff to be like comfortable like starting a campaign where I think I could keep things happening on a regular basis and actually have everything. But I would really, really be interested in doing that. That would be a lot of fun. Did I ever play the Ultima series? I played like 2 or 3, but I have played Ultima. I never played it like a whole lot. I was on Daggerfall, man. I was on that Daggerfall action back then. Oh, that's cool. Like, I like playing D&D. It's not like my least favorite game or anything. It's just it's one of those games it's like a lot of things, arguably all the Elder Scrolls stuff I just talked about. It's definitely running on the fumes of nostalgia. But I didn't dislike 5th edition. I like 5th edition. I thought 4th edition was terrible, but... And I'm not one of those guys that's like Pathfinder or bust. But like I liked Advanced. I actually have the rules cyclopedia over here on my shelf. If anybody knows what that is. Do you mind sharing your printer settings for the smaller nozzles? I really need to make a video about that. I get asked that a lot. One of the things I'd recommend you do is calibrate your E-steps. The smaller nozzles seem to be a little more susceptible to your E-steps being calibrated improperly. We talked about it earlier. I don't remember which stream it was in. We did it recently on a stream. It's not that hard to do. But there's a couple guys that have really good tutorials on that if you just Google it or do a search here on YouTube. Just do like E-step calibration, 3D printing, something like that. But it's fairly straightforward because yeah, most people have Prauner Face because it's like freely available. It's not that hard to hook up a USB cable and do it. But beyond that, you just want to make sure that you've changed your nozzle setting in your slicer. Like this is, I think the 0.3 is in here right now. And I think I just have the extrusion width and simplify set to auto. I think it comes out to like 0.36 or something like that, the actual like extrusion width. And then everything else is the same as printing with any other nozzle size. You know, you just have your layer height setting, which is preference more than anything. Just make sure if you do like 0.15 layer height or lower, make sure you up the multiplier on the first layer. Like, I forget how you do that in Slicer, but in Simplify, you can change the percentage thickness of the first layer. And like, if you're going to do 0.15, I would go 150% or higher on the first layer. Because otherwise the first layer is just like too thin. It's hard to get your Z height right and can be a pain. You ordered the 0.15. Yeah, I need to get off my laurels and order that too. It seems fun. I don't know how practical it is. I'm sure there's a lot of cool things you can do with it, but speeds, I've never really had to slow prints down that much. Like most things, I just print at 40 millimeters a second unless I print at that speed and have problems with it. Yeah, well, some of those things, like I wouldn't mind doing videos on Simplify, but like there's guys like Angus and stuff that already do pretty good videos for the most part. I guess there's some things that people haven't gone into like a ton of depth on yet. Like supports, I'm sure someone does have a video, but I've never seen a video that just goes like line by line and explains in detail with examples like of what everything does. Because I had to kind of figure that out a few weeks ago. And some of the settings aren't super intuitive, you know, as far as like what they do exactly and what effect changing them has. Because a lot of those settings have a dramatic impact on, like you said, how easily they are to remove and stuff. Isn't it enough to change the extrusion multiplier? Yes, you can do it that way. But like if you're gonna mess with the extrusion multiplier, there's really no objective way to test it short of just like tweaking the value and printing something and taking a look at it. With the E steps, you can do it in a more direct way. Like you're actually measuring something, doing something, and then measuring again and coming up with a number to change your values for. Tutorials on their webpage. Bob, we don't do tutorials on web pages. This is YouTube. You need everything spoon-fed. This is the way the world works now. You got a 0.1 nozzle, Pook? 0.1 is definitely small. Holy crap. Yeah, I didn't even know they made a 0.1, because I know the 0.15s are expensive because I guess they're harder to manufacture. I think the 0.15s are like $18 or $19. But no, I'd be interested to see the 0.1. You're considering buying the Ruby extruder. We were actually talking about those the other day. I guess I'll mention it here while we have a full house too. Was it? I think it was Aspie. I don't know if Aspie's still here. Or no, it wasn't Aspie that started it. It was Matthew. I don't know if Matthew's here. Oh, I'm terrible at remembering names and stuff. I apologize. But one of the awesome members of the 3D printing community, we'll say it that way, has basically been pushing to do a community stream every week on Fridays. And again, it's going to vary like based on your time zone, but like for me, it's at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard on Friday. And it just so happens this week I'm going to be hosting unless someone objects and wants to host for whatever reason. But we'll be doing a community stream with like last time we had 12 or 13 people that rotated in and out of the Hangout. And it was just cool. Like Jatman was there, Aspie was there. I'm feeling I'm feeling bad because I can't remember names. I can look at names now. I'll go ahead and link to the previous one actually. But it was a stream that was full of some of the other YouTubers that do 3D printing content. And like even for me personally, like it was great because I got to meet some people that I had not met before. And many of them have some pretty cool channels that again have content that you might not find elsewhere. So that is a link to the previous one that we did last Friday. Who was there? Vicky Soma, How to Do It. That's Matt. Practical Printings. Chris. A Pyro. Jatman was there. I'm Print. Zadim. They spelled your name wrong, Richard. And of course, yours truly. And Aaron York was there for a little while. I don't know if he hung around the whole time, but no, it was kind of cool because we all have different perspectives on 3D printing. So it's and Bob. But no, it's cool. It's cool to get to meet people that you might not otherwise get to meet and check out some channels that you might not otherwise stumble upon because YouTube kind of buries you in search results. I think it's still that way for me. Like if you do a search for any of the videos I've done, I'll probably be on page like 85. So unless you put Nillabean in there. E-steps and Simplify 3D. That's why you kind of have to go like watch a tutorial on it because it's actually something you do directly with the firmware. We can go over it real quick. All you do is like measure like a fixed distance here. Like I think we were doing like 120 millimeters. Measure from the top of your extruder, 120 millimeters, mark it. Then you can either do it from like something like Prowler Face or directly from the thing. You want to tell the machine to extrude 120 millimeters or whatever distance you marked, and then measure how much it actually extruded. And what you do then is take that number and the difference, and there's a relatively simple little equation that somebody linked earlier in the stream. I think Aspie linked it. But that's why you kind of need to go look up a tutorial. It's not complicated, but there's things that you want to make sure you get right. But what you do then is you have to tether your printer with a USB cable, and you can go in and see what your previous E-step value was in the firmware, and then basically multiply it by the difference of the other values that you just tested, and it'll give you a new value that you want to save to your EEPROM or into your firmware, and then test it again. And if you do it right, when you tell the machine to extrude, say 100 millimeters, it should actually extrude 100 millimeters now. And it like I said, I didn't really notice any problems with like a 0.4 nozzle, but when you get down to like the 0.25, and I would imagine like the 0.15 and stuff, it can cause you some problems. It'll tend to cause like over or under extrusion. And like I said, you can just fix that problem by changing your extrusion multiplier. But depending on how far your values are off, you might have to do quite a few tweaks and test prints and tweaks and test prints and you know what I mean, to get it sorted out. And like in my experience, the extrusion multiplier is a pretty heavy-handed change to make. Scott, how often do you need to recalibrate? Not very often. Like I really don't. Basically, all the calibrations I've ever done, I've done on stream. I'm probably a little more lax than you could be with calibrations. Like, since I was handling my machine and had it on its side and picked it up and did all kinds of crap today, I should probably recalibrate my X, Y, and Z axis. Like, just do the full thing, go through, recalibrate your Z height and all that crap. But the thing you change most is your Z height, because that can vary from filament to filament, obviously nozzle to nozzle, and the layer height of your print's going to affect it. But in general, like, you don't have to do those core. Like, now that I've done my E-steps, I probably won't touch that again until I update the firmware, and I'll have to go back and change it again, or like I notice I'm having problems again. But it just depends on what you're changing. Like, if you swap nozzles a lot, that can, you know, you could maybe recalibrate some things whenever you do that. But in general, it's not real bad. You kind of know, like, I kind of know at this point, like, if I have the 0.3 or the 0.25 in here and I jump to like the 0.6, there's some things that I know I'm going to have to like address. Like, you have to go in and change your extrusion widths. The Leonard, to hook it up, you basically just need to, it should have came with a USB cable. You hook the USB cable into your little stepper board here on the side in the little control panel. Or not the control panel, but you know what I mean, the back corner here. And you hook it up, you start up Prawnterface. Again, it's one of the programs that came with the software suite that Prusa gives you. And you basically just... if you go watch my PID tuning video, I go over how to like connect your printer. It's really simple. But you just have to select the COM port that your printer's connected to, hit connect, and it should connect. And then there's like, if you look up a tutorial, it'll just tell you like the G-code commands you have to use. It's pretty straightforward. I need to do a video or at least pull that section out, because the first time I did the E-step calibration, we had all kinds of problems and it ended up taking forever. But then the second time I did it, I double checked it and it only took like 3 to 5 minutes, I would say, probably less than that. Yeah, Scott, basically once you have your machine situated, and like I said, if you're going to be swapping nozzles and stuff, you'll get kind of used to like the things that you need to make sure are okay whenever you do switches like that, but it's not too bad. It's definitely worse when you're new because everything's kind of alien and yeah, it gets better. One last question, how often do you get filament jams? Essentially never, honestly. Yeah, essentially never. I know there are tons of people that adore Hatchbox and have had great experience with it, but I've only ever had 2 rolls of Hatchbox. One was like a silvery gunmetal gray kind of color that I did not really love. The width of that filament was kind of all over the place. There were spots on that roll where it was down to like 0.67, and then there were spots that were clear up to like 1.81 or 1.82, which is kind of crazy. Which I wouldn't be surprised, especially with smaller nozzles, if that leads to jams. But I haven't even run in like this 0.3. Like I run this 0.3 a lot for whatever reason now, and it's been a long time since I had a filament jam. I even did the bronze fill with this 0.13. But I've had pretty good luck with it. I haven't really had any issues. What's up, Nilla? Your videos have me hooked on watching 3D printing stuff. That's cool, man. Do you already have an MK2 and you're just going to get the S upgrade kit, or are you going to get the full $600 or $700 kit that's going to be a MK2S? Oh, I see what you're saying, Scott. The one roll of Hatchbox I got had that problem where you get a tangle like mid-roll. And yeah, it's terrible. If you babysit the printer, you can sometimes deal with it. You can just like keep walking the filament back and kind of like keep it from tangling really bad. But the only one of those, I've only had it happen like 2 or 3 times. One was with the Hatchbox, which was in the middle of the roll, which I know wasn't my fault. It's just the roll was wound poorly. The other one was I had it happen the other day with a roll of the AIO, but it's because I dropped the roll, and I thought I had, like, it kind of came off the spool a little bit, and I thought I had sorted it out, but then I was, like, an hour and a half into, like, a 4-hour print, and it had a crossover in there that kept getting tighter and tighter, and I had to babysit it, but no, that's just, I guess it's just one of those things that happens periodically. Even companies that have, like, good winding procedures, I guess it can just happen occasionally that, you know, you get a bunch of layers that shift in the roll and it kind of causes that binding. Oh, that's cool, Reese's. I'm sure you'll be happy if you just, this week's community stream might be right up your alley. Because I just kind of volunteered to host this week, and the topic, like the topic's going to vary each week, and the topic I wanted to talk about was just like basically any tips that any of us as 3D printing YouTubers had for people who are just like genuinely new to 3D printing, because it's the kind of stuff I get asked about the most, because it's really intimidating when you first get into it. Like, I remember how I felt. I was afraid to do anything because I didn't want to ruin anything. But yeah, if that's the case for you, you might want to, if you can make it this Friday at it's going to be 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it'd be quite a bit later than I normally stream, but there should be quite a few people in there. Hopefully everybody can make it. And we'll be talking about just that, like tips we have for people, some advice and encouragement. I would, Scott, I don't know if, to me, if you have Amazon Prime, it pretty much seals the deal. If you don't, it's still worth it, but check out AIO Filament on Amazon. Like I said, it's definitely my PLA of choice. I don't know how their other filaments are, but it's my favorite PLA to print with. It just prints really great. But it comes in the smaller 500-gram rolls, and like with Amazon Prime, they're only $12.99, and you get free 2-day shipping and stuff. So it's pretty hard to beat, because that obviously that would come out to like about $24 for a 1 kilogram roll if you buy 2 500-gram rolls, which is right there to me at like the sweet spot where it's not expensive, but it's not really like cheap filament, but it's not like high end. It's not like freaking bronze fill or anything where you're spending $60 or $70 a roll. You were nervous when you did your first print. Yeah, it's a little... I remember when I first got my kit, I was so terrified. It feels like forever ago, but I remember because I streamed the whole assembly of my kit, and I like quadruple checked all my electrical connections because I was just like terrified that the moment I plugged it in and turned it on, it was going to like poof and ruin something. 10 p.m. is 4 a.m. in Europe. That's not ideal. I guess I can see, I think Angus stopped by last Friday and said he couldn't hang around. I kind of see now, I see why now. That's not the best time of day. I haven't tried inland yet. I haven't tried an inland PLA, but I've been trying to branch out. I have through MakerBox. I've got to try a couple different kinds. What else has worked out well? I know one thing I did like. I don't know if anybody, because again, this is something that I think would help people who are new. This is a filament from Coex, Coex. It's called MG94, and this is an ABS. This was actually the first ABS I ever printed with. It's what it was also the first print I ever smoothed. It's what this crossbow was printed with. And this was fantastic for my first experience with ABS. I know the lighting's terrible, because you can see we smoothed it also. Get it up here a little better. It's just a little crossbow. These things are kind of fun. But this is a very easy ABS to print with. I know the light's not quite catching it. It's kind of a dark filament. But it's a really forgiving ABS that doesn't really warp like some of the other ABSs, you can have problems with. And this was also the first filament I've ever used acetone smoothing with, and it was fairly easy to do. If you watch that video, it was kind of cool. We used the Heatbed of the Mk2 as our heat source. Like you've seen people use like hot plates and all kinds of crazy stuff. If you heat your Heatbed up, there's enough heat there to really like accelerate the smoothing process. Because I have this crossbow. I used to shoot stuff quite a bit with it. Because they are fun. Because it just takes string. And then this is out of the Omni. That's another cool filament. That's kind of like a PLA that has the qualities of ABS. So it's kind of flexible. Again, I don't know why I shoot my webcam, but yeah. Yeah, I've heard lots of people say nice things about eSun. Just had to watch that stream yesterday to get a bit more confidence. Yeah, like I said, I was super nervous. Because when you're building your kit, you know, it's not that hard. Like, mentally, you can deal with it. You're like, yeah, I might be doing something wrong, but if I do, I can come back and fix it. When you introduce electricity, it's a little higher risk. Like, if you've done something wrong, yeah. I was just afraid I was just, like, blow the board out or something crazy. But, no, you just have to strike that right balance of being cautious but not afraid. You need to be cautious and make sure you're not going to do something stupid, because some mistakes can be kind of unforgiving. But at the same time, you need to have enough confidence to not be afraid to try things, because if you don't try things, you're never going to learn anything. Oh, the new assembly guide has videos? That's pretty nice. Yeah, I'm sure that helps a lot. Very cool, guys. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to go. We're at like 3.5 hours. As usual, I could sit here and talk all day. I'm a very reserved, quiet person. If you watch one of my older videos, you know why. I've actually had some mental health problems. Or I still do, but it's funny when I get on like camera here. I don't know why I feel so comfortable in my basement. Because there's nobody here, I guess. But yeah, I could talk all day. But we're not going to do that. It's been a while since we had a 5-hour stream, and I guess we're going to keep it that way. Those ones are hard to watch. Just because people don't have enough time. But yeah, anyway, guys. Thanks for... I'm not a cocaine. Okay. All right. Meester, I'll take your word for it. Meester is not a cocaine, if anybody was wondering. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna get. Hope my daughter's doing better. She's all right. She's all right. She's not fussy anymore. I gave you guys a false exit there. Everybody's saying goodbye now. So yeah, we'll wrap it up. So no, in hindsight, I think the Cork is kind of like some of the other upgrades. I don't think it's at all necessary. It is not required at all. Not required. But I think it does have some benefits. Yeah, I guess go call my dad. But no, it seems like a cool upgrade, and it looks classy. Have that little edge of cork. Looks nice. But thanks for hanging out with me, as always, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being interested. Thanks for giving me somebody to chat to instead of sitting here alone all day in my basement. But as usual, we'll be here at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard on Thursday. Don't know what we'll be doing. We'll be doing something. I try to branch out, keep things interesting. Also, don't forget, if anyone's interested, we'll be doing the community stream this Friday. It will be here on the channel, so it'll be at the same place you are currently. Be here Friday at 10 p.m., so 12 hours later than normal. I know that's going to be hard for you guys in Europe and stuff, but we will be here if you're interested. Maybe somebody will be having some trouble sleeping and stop in. But, and as always, I know a few of you are in here, wink, wink. Thanks to everybody that supports me on Patreon. That will be, I'll be getting the money from that, I think, tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll have it by Thursday, but probably by Friday I'll have some soft boxes in here, and hopefully we won't have shadows all over the damn place. Hopefully it'll help with that. But, yes, I am hosting Whoop Whoop. But yeah, peace, everybody. Hopefully you'll have some fun this week printing some cool stuff. So until next time,